This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. This meeting is an in-person meeting held at 870 Colfax here in Benton Harbor. In addition, a live stream of this meeting is available at the following link. Questions may be submitted beforehand to natalie.singer@bhas.org or presented in person during the public comment section as indicated in the agenda. Board members may be contacted through the emails listed below. Requests for special assistance, including for persons with disabilities, may be sent to natalie.singer@bhas.org. I call this meeting to order officially at 5:32 p.m. We'll begin by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Secretary Triplett, can you please call the roll?
President Robinson,
Yes.
Vice President Bond, Secretary Triplett, President, Treasurer Bradley, Trustee Rocket Martin,
Present.
Trustee Gavin,
Present.
Trustee Doyle. Madam President, a quorum has been established.
All right, so next on the agenda, we have approval of the agenda. As a reminder, this special meeting is specifically for our budget hearing. So our item of business for the 5:30 meeting is the budget hearing and presentation, a board question and answer, and then a public Q&A if anyone arrives that would like to ask a question. So at this time, I ask, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I so move.
Is there a second or support? The motion has been made by Secretary Triplett and supported by Trustee Rocket Martin. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, Secretary Triplett?
President Robinson,
Yes.
Vice President Bowens, Secretary Triplett, yes. Trustee Rocket Martin, Trustee Gavin,
Yes.
motion carried.
All right, up next on the agenda is the review of our board norms, the Board of Education norms for Benton Harbor area schools. We will treat each other with respect. We will listen to learn. We will refrain from side conversations. We will use our time wisely, starting and ending our meetings on time. We will challenge ideas, not people. We will ask questions when in doubt. There will be no surprise at the board table. We will practice the 7 norms of collaboration. Those are pausing, paraphrasing, posing questions, putting ideas on the table, providing data, paying attention to self and others, and presuming positive intent. All right, next up on the agenda is public comment on agenda items. Is there anyone present that would like to make a public comment on an agenda item? Hearing none, we'll proceed. Up next, we have the budget hearing and presentation. It's being led by Dr. Butts with, of course, assistance from Brock Carter as needed. And Dr. Butts is going to present to the board.
Good afternoon. This afternoon, I'll be presenting to you the budget proposal for the 25-26 school year. This executive summary outlines the proposed budget for the Benton Harbor area schools for the fiscal year 25-26. The budget prioritizes enhancing educational quality while maintaining fiscal responsibility. Key allocations include investments in curriculum development, teacher training, technology upgrades, and support modern learning environments. Additionally, provisions have been made for facilities, maintenance, and student support services to ensure a conducive learning atmosphere. The budget proposal aims to optimize resources to meet academic goals while addressing operational needs effectively. Comprehensive financial planning and transparent allocation strategies are integral to achieving our mission of providing a superior educational experience for all students at Benton Harbor area schools. The vision of Benton Harbor area schools is committed to be the best in academics, athletics, and the arts. We believe that we are responsible for providing quality education. Education is a lifelong process for students, parents, and guardians. We value diversity, equity, and inclusion by understanding, respecting, and believing in the worth of every person. Benton Harbor area schools employs teachers, parents, caregivers, and students to to be the best. Let me read that again. Benton Harbor area schools always strive to have employees, teachers, parents, students, caregivers to strive to be their best. Sorry about that. We want to ensure that the student education and learning will reflect integrity and ethics. We strive to make a relevant educational process that reflects the work ethic necessary to prepare students to become productive in a 21st century global society. The purpose of this plan is to be fiscally responsible and to be able to maximize each dollar to support the achievement of our students, staff. This plan reflects the programmatic goals set by the superintendent and the Board of Education. Our budget hearing goals will be to comply with Uniform Budgeting and Accounting Act, provide a summary on proposed budgets, and receive input from the Board of Education and public on proposed budgets. Currently, the district faces challenges related to declining enrollment and the ending of the Elementary and Secondary Emergency Fund Relief, also known as ESSER grants. So the board approves each function by function code. The basic accounting identifier for expenditure, it describes the activity for which a service or material is acquired. I'm sorry, I didn't know. Next. Okay. I'm sorry. So the presentation is behind you all. I think I need to turn this podium on around so I can keep up. So on your slides you have in front of you and the one that's on the board, what I was talking about are the function codes. These are how we identify the areas of where the funds come from by the different function codes. The basic functional categories operated by most districts are instructional, pupil support, instructional staff support, general administration, business service operations, maintenance, transportation, central services, community services, and facilities acquisition. Budgets are presented by fund. So the first one will be the general fund. So if you look at yours, the budget goals are to increase academic performance, increase culture and climate for students and staff, and increase community family engagement opportunities. General fund, primary operating fund, and organizational unit. We're going to review the revenues, the expenses, and the fund balance. The revenue source. As you can see, our local expected revenue sources are $7,498,000. State revenue sources are that we expect to receive is $11,084,000. Excuse me, $11,084,220. Federal funds expected to be received are $5,483,000. Incoming transfers and other funds that are expected to be received equals up to $419,000. For the total revenues expected for the 25-26 school year, $24,484,220. Expenditures by object. So as you will see on this slide, personnel, salary, and benefits amount to $20,463. This is without doing any cuts. This is everyone in the district's salary expenses. Capital expenditures are those expenditures on our projects and other capital projects we're doing, such as the roof, finishing out the boilers, the track, etc. We expect to be $1.5 million. Other expenditures, $60,056. Purchase services, $9,088. $9,088,484. Supplies, those are total supplies throughout the school district, $1,235,753. Our total expenses for next year are projected to be $31,884,753. $31,884,756. Yes, sir.
So I'm looking here at the school personnel.
Yes, sir.
And so I guess I've been asking this question for some time now. When we talk about, there are the general fund and certain positions, is the responsibility of the district that they must come out of the general fund. So I don't see that number here. So when you present like this to the public, the 20 million,
Yes, sir.
463,
24,484,000.
no, with this personnel salary and benefits.
Okay,
You're saying that's $20 million go for personnel salary and benefits.
yes, sir.
So question is this. All of these, when you look at the personnel, all of the salaries, all of these salaries do not come out of the general fund. Is that correct?
They come out of the general fund at the end of the day. So what the general
No.
fund is broken up into different pots of money. So you have we have our Title I funds and other grant funds that all go into the general funds, and then they're then dispersed to different accounts throughout.
That's what I want. That's where the clarification, because I keep getting the same thing, that everything is looked upon as the general fund. But these are different sources. Well, when we talk about, if I look at what percentage or what is the amount, I don't need that now. These are just questions for myself.
No, okay.
What is the amount of personnel that comes out of the actual general fund, not title, not any other position or any other sources of funding, out of the general fund? What would be the number is a question that I would ask and try to get some clarification on. That's number one. When we're breaking it down like that.
Okay.
Okay. And because when we present this, it looks like our total expenses supersede what we have. They could turn that on. We're having a discussion.
Yeah, we can turn that off for this,
click that off
here.
tonight, please. Thank you. So, yeah, so I just need clarification on that. I've been asking that, and I have an idea of what it is. And so the responses that I'm getting is not matching with what I guess I'm going to say what I think I know.
Okay, so if you go back to the function codes, that's how we decipher out where those funds come from. So to the general public, they wouldn't know that. So you have access to the function codes. If you go back a few slides where where I was talking about function codes.
Familiar with it.
So the local, state, federal, and so you start talking about the different expenditures, they have different codes to them.
Yeah.
So within that, that's where you get the grant money. So when I talk about Title I, some salaries is paid out of Title I, but a person cannot be fully funded out of Title I.
Okay.
31A, which is for security. 31AA is for special ed. So we can put some of those salaries in there, but not the entire salary in there. So some of it is grant funded and the other half is general fund.
Right. So I'm familiar with supplanting, and when you're talking about those types of things that you cannot supplant.
That's correct.
And that those things must be used the way in which they were designed to be used.
Yes, sir.
But there is a hardcore group of people when it comes to the general fund funding itself. There's a hardcore that says this must come directly out of the general fund.
Correct.
Okay, so if I may ask this question, you might be able to answer it. When a district is identified as having a deficit,
yes, sir,
is that based on the general fund that they've overgrown, have gone beyond the general fund, or is that all of the other function codes included in that as well?
So you can have two different types of deficits. You can have a general fund deficit, a general fund balance deficit, which means we don't have enough to start the school year, or we can have a structural deficit, which is what we're looking at now. A general fund balance, meaning we don't have enough, means we have to borrow money from the treasury because we have no money in the bank. We have no fund balance. Benton Harbor has a huge fund balance. We have money in the bank. We have a structural imbalance, which means our expenditures exceed our revenues.
At this present time.
At this present time, there can be some revisions to the budget under your new incoming administration to correct those
What to adjust,
or to adjust. Yes, sir.
because there are a lot of variables that happen because, it might be an overabundance, a flood of new students coming.
Correct.
And that-
School of
and
choice
that-
plays a big part of this. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Can you all hear me? Okay, my question is about the revenue sources. Local. Can you go a little, is that just local taxes? Is that everything that we get? Like,
Ye-
what is that?
So yes, ma'am. Those are the local taxes that we receive from our tax collections.
Okay, so all of that is taxes.
All of that is taxes.
Okay, when you say income transfers and others.
Yes, ma'am.
That means money balance brought over?
Incoming transfers and others, that's if a student comes to our district. So a lot of times we think that when we have a number right at the beginning of the school year, that's the finality. But no, if a student comes, say in December, the state has a formula to figure out. So we may not get the full FTE, which is $10,000, but we'll get a large portion of that because they came at a certain time. So what we do is make a projection of what we expect. And that's for private school as well. And that's where we get the incoming funds. So it could be for private school or it could be students transferring in, et cetera.
Okay, thank you. So this is our revenue sources.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? Is there anything else in the form of revenues that we get that may not be reported here, like that $500,000 in the Hobart funds, education foundations, donations, other grants? You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
is there another source of revenue that may not be shown on this page?
So those are revenues that we have access to, but we can't count them as our revenue because they are coming from a different source. So they're not a one-time source. So for example, the Benton Harbor Education Foundation, they're set so that we can make our different asks. They're set up for the Benton Harbor area schools. So they're set so we can make different asks and they can pay for certain things that they vote to pay for. But we can't count that as our recurring revenue because we don't know what they'll actually pay for. It's the independent board. They make the vote, so we don't know what they'll actually vote for.
Right, okay, so when we look at these additional funds that we have that's not shown on this paper, is that like just the additional money that's sitting in the bank? I guess what I'm wondering is, how could one see the additional funds that we have that are not necessarily shown on this graph?
So go ahead.
Can't hear you.
You can't.
Did anybody know we was having this meeting tonight?
Okay, I wanted to just speak on that. Any
It-
funds that it wouldn't be considered revenue. If it's funds that we already have, those would be our assets. So that's why it wouldn't be shown on the incoming revenue source, because once we've received the revenue and we bank it's now an asset. It's no longer revenue.
Thank you for that. So I guess what I'm wondering is there, where would we look to see?
On the monthly reports that I share every month with the board,
Right, okay, so it's not in here.
no, it's not a part of our budget. Our budget is just to outline our revenue and expenses.
Is it something that in the future, if we wanted to have that as
You-
an added piece of information to know the assets that we have access to?
Actually, in the
request
next
it?
meeting, we'll go over the monthly reports and it'll be there. It's there every month and you can see it anytime.
Okay, just as a FYI, do you know the assets that we have access to in addition to our revenues?
I will have to pull up the report, but I have the dollar amount, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions before I move on? You can keep that, Miss.
Yeah, Madam President, I had just asked a question. The technology, know we were having a meeting tonight. Okay, thank you. With the, because Miss Trustee Gavin's mic has been, I understand, Miss Rocket Martin. I do understand. But I'm just saying, for the last 4 or 5 meetings, Trustee Gavin's microphone has not been in operation. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
So if you flip to the next slide and look at general fund balance. On this side, you'll see general fund balance for the beginning of the 25-26 school years. It's projected to be $24.8 million. The defined net assets or rainy day funds, MDE recommends that at least 5% of state revenue remains in net assets at the end of the year. And MDE and Treasury also requires a school district to maintain a healthy fund balance. So this one right here is a chart that where you see from historically from 14-15 to 23-24 up to the 25-26 school year, the growth that Benton Harbor has made.
And that's exceptional.
That is exceptional growth.
Exception. So you
Yes,
see-
ma'am.
Quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
MDE recommends that we're at a 5%. Can you or Director Brockharter tell us what our percentage is of state revenue remains?
And that'll include the fund balance too. So we are.
Or what it would be with this recommended budget?
Should give it to you in just a second.
And just for the record, I would normally be chairing at this particular time, but I think the meeting will be a little more fluid, allowing Dr. Buss to call for questions. I would just ask that you all do be mindful and respectful of each other's question time and not overtalk each other, but you can.
Thank you.
Okay.
Andrew, take 4 million from the 24 million and then do the percentage of that. Because that's what we typically start off with. Last year we started off with 4 million. So I'll go from last year's budget.
%5 of 20 million is $1,040,000.
So we're over 5%.
Right, but I'm wondering, what is our percentage? That's my question. Because if 5% is their recommendation, my question is, what is our percentage?
Just a second, I'll get it for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
So when we do the division, we should be at 60% of fund balance.
Okay, thank you. So the state recommends 5% and we're at 60%.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Sorry it took me so long. You got me with that. I didn't have to calculate. So on the next slide. On the next slide, thank you. The summer general fund, the beginning fund balance again for the 25-26 school year is projected to be 24.8 million. The revenue estimate, which is money coming in, is estimated to be 24.4 million. Estimated expenses 531.8 million, an ending balance of 17.4 million at the end of the school year, with a net change to the fund balance, which is a net change to the 24.8 million that we have, will be a negative $7.4 million change in fund balance. That's minusing from the fund balance that we have now.
Can we
Yep.
gotta be clear, because a lot of people get confused. We are not at a deficit. We are not in debt. We are not $7 million in debt. We are spending more than we did before. We had more money, and we have 17.4 million in our fund balance. That's on the plus side in the group.
It's still on the plus side, but it's,
Yeah.
we're spending you will have a change, a net change or a minus, a deduction of 7.4 million. You will still have 17.4 million total in your fund balance. So Ben Harbor will not be in a deficit. They will not have $24 million. They will have $17 million. No deficit.
If they do what?
If
We have to be clear on that.
Okay, and we will be clear.
Yeah, because
If
wrong
we keep on
information-
the same trajectory,
Right.
it will be 17 million. If
Okay.
the board should desire to make changes, that number could go well back up. If there are more students to transfer in, that number could go exceedingly high.
Yeah,
So, and I just want to make sure, because I know we all clearly understand what that means, but I don't want you all to be shocked. We know how, we know that there has to be public reporting from the media as it relates to our potential budget. And so I don't know if you all saw a recent article pertaining to Lakeshore Public Schools being 1.4 million in the red. There would be a similar article potentially. I would not be shocked, indicating that we're 7.4.
Listen, I can't hear you. Can you speak a little louder?
So I was saying even with us understanding that clarification, I just want to make sure that people understand that you may see media reports that indicate that we're 7.4 million in the red, similarly to how they did recently with Lakeshore Public Schools. So that narrative will be out there, but like you all said, it's important for the public to understand that just means that we are taking that 7.4 from general fund and essentially spending more than we're receiving in that particular year, but it does not mean that we are broke.
Madam President,
Yes.
had an amazing meeting with the Director of Finance. And I guess what we're trying to project to the public for clarification purposes, the way in which it went out was like Ben Harbor was $8 million. The $16 million, now you're down, you go into your $24 million that you have for rainy day or what that you have there. And right now we're at 16 million. That's not true. Okay, these right here were just projections that if we continue at this rate, if students do not move, if students do not come, if we don't go through and really rehash how it is that we're going to be moving, if we don't take these vacant positions off the book, this right here is just, but for clarification purposes, that is not the case. We have $24 million that we have not had to dip, we will not have to dip into, we have not had to dip into, and it has not been touched. And our current budget, we are not over in any wise. And that's what we need to get in layman's terms to our public. So there are some discussions and loads of ways in which we'll be able to do things, because we as board members have to take it upon ourselves. And I would encourage anybody who has not met with a director of finance to really take that time, because I got a lot of clarification today. And I thank you for that, Director Carter. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Triplett. On the next slide, you will see summary budget by function. So we have three columns here. We have the audited column that we had in 23-24, the actual year to date as of 5/31/25, and then the budget, the projected budget for the 25-26 school year. So local revenues audited in 23-24 was $9,091,224. Actual year to date revenues, $8,448,390 as of 5/31/25. The budgeted amount for the fiscal year 25-26 from local funds, $7,498,000. From state audited, 23-24, $11,071,477. Actual year to date, $8,505,782. And for the budgeted for the 25-26 school year, $11,084,220. Federal revenues audited for the 23-24 year, $23,528,159. Actual year to date, $11,531,446. Budgeted for 25-26 federal revenues is $5,483,000. Incoming and transfers audited for the 23-24 school year was $527,360. Actual year to date, $566,512. And budgeted for the 25-26 school year of incoming and transfers and others, $419,000. So total revenues, which were audited for 23-24, were $44,218,220. Actual year to date, as of 5/31/25, total revenues that Benton Harbor has, $29,052,131. Budgeted for the 25-26 school year, $24,484,220. Mr. Triplett.
Question. So, I guess. is it
While
on
he's asking his question, I'm sorry, which page are you on with what you were just reading?
Summary budget, I
The
think.
summary, okay. Okay, thank you.
I want, is it okay for me to ask for clarification from our finance
Yes, sir.
director? So when we say, audited, because when you look at 23-24, that was still some ESSER funding and what have you. When you say audited, when you say, year-to-date actual, and then what's budgeted for the 2025-26 school year, can you break that down and tell me what is audited, what is year-to-date, and then what's budgeted? Because I'm clear on the fact that we're budgeting and we're lowballing just in case we don't make it there. So I do understand that technique. So that's amazing to be able to look at it. But can you explain that to me, each category, when we say audited,
Yes.
actual? Yeah.
Yeah, the first column that says fiscal year 23-24 audited,
Mhm.
that is the financial statements that were created by our auditors after they went through and audited our entire school year
Yeah.
and all of our transactions and everything we've done for the year. Those were the final numbers from our audit reports. You should all have a copy of it.
Right.
That the gentleman came and went over with us.
Yeah.
Those numbers came from that report. And the second column is the year-to-date actual. That is based on the actual transactions that have gone through our accounting system and that have posted to our accounts through our accounting system from July 1st, 2024 to May 31st, 2025. And then the fiscal year 25-26 budget column is our projections for next school year.
Great.
Go ahead, Ms. Gavin.
Okay, so thank you for that. With there being a sizable difference between the audited and the actual, does that difference mean that it's carried over?
No, the audited is from a year ago, 23-24 school year. The actual is for 24-25 school year. So they're two different years.
Right. What I'm saying is the audited, that means what we had, right?
Right.
Okay,
And that
That-
contributed to our $24.8 million fund balance.
Right, so I guess my question is, the audited is 44 million plus, the actual is 29 million plus. The difference of that,
Well,
did any of that have to go back? Or
no,
did
if you
that-
look at net revenue at the bottom after expenses, that 6,420,978, that is the portion of the revenue that went into our fund balance.
and the other portion?
Excuse me?
Look, I
You
think I know exactly what you're saying. So for the the 44,218,220 dollars, that was the total revenue for the 23-24 school year. That was with ESSER funds in it. So when you look all the way down, before I go down, but when I go across, what we have in the bank today as what we have in the bank as of 5/31, thank you so much, was $29,052,131. So when you look at the bottom and we look at total expenses under the 23-24 year, the total expenses for that year was $37,797,242. But that was because we had ESSER funds too, and we had some one-time expenditures within that year. So the actual year to date, as of May 31 of 2025, in our reserves, we had $28,379,172. So what I'm saying is, prior to that, we've never gone into a deficit because we had enough money to cover those expenditures with the ESSER funds.
I get that. I get that. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm just asking about the difference.
Okay, so
What
I was gonna get
happens to
to
the
it.
difference? Is it a portion goes back if we don't spend it? It goes into assets, it goes into our.
It's a carryover.
So it's just carried
It
over.
carried over. We can carry over a certain amount every year.
Okay, thank
But
you.
for,
That was
but
my
for
question.
clarification purposes, when we look at this year-to-date actual, that does not mean what we had in the account. That means exactly what we have spent up to this point.
No, with expenditures, yes, but revenues is what we have in the account.
Right,
No, revenue is what we have received in deposits.
right. So it's not what we have, it's what we received. It's because this right here is still moving. Because when
It's
you,
fluid.
yeah, when you report to us, you say sometimes that we've only dealt with 40% of what it is. That has actually been in there, and I think the board has to be clear on that. So right up to date right now, if we look at the top, the 29 million is what our finance director has cleared through all of our accounts, and that's what has been spent through all of our accounts to date.
That's what has been received in revenue.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, total expenses is what we have spent.
okay.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
the difference is just year, 23-24 versus 24-25. The difference in the revenue is just based on the income that we receive,
Right,
so if, I don't want to use the term carryover because it's not quite a carryover because it's the start of a new year. And the net at the bottom, the revenue, the income after expenses, that net revenue is really what we're banking. Does that make sense?
it does. On top of the 24 million?
Well, that was 23-24, so that is included in the 24 million.
So if you look at the
When we
bottom,
started 23-24 year, we had 18 million in our fund balance.
right,
At the end of 23-24, now we have 24 million because we gained the 6 million.
It went in.
Correct.
That's it. Okay.
so at the bottom you'll see at the net revenue, total expenditures and the net revenue. The actual revenues after we've paid our expenditures from that 23-24 and actual year to date of this year, $672,959. As I just said, with our beginning fund balance on the slide before and our expected revenue and expenditures, there's a net difference of a negative $7 million. But that's not saying that we're going in debt. There's just a change in revenue and expenditures.
Question is, and that's where we need to get clarification. That when we look at these basic programs, what's been budgeted for the 25-26 school year, based on what's happening right now, because when we look at even what was presented to us as it relates to jobs being cut, positions being removed and wiped off, there were 8 to 9 positions on there that were already vacant. But you still had that down on. That's okay. You still had that down on the book. So if those positions are vacant, even though those numbers are there, when we report out like that, that's a lot of money. That if they're vacant, they just need to be moved off the book. But the way that it presents, and then it goes into where it shows that there's a possibility of a $7 million, $8 million deficit. That's not the case. There weren't 31 jobs that were wiped out, or that when we went through and counted, there were 9 to 10 positions that were vacant. No one was in those positions anyhow. And so it's a discussion. It is a conversation to say, we don't need an assistant superintendent of instruction. We don't have that position anymore. We don't have an assistant in human resources. So that's all. We haven't spent any money. We haven't lost any money because it was never there. And so those are the things that I think that have to be tightened up when we're presenting to the public, and even when we're presenting to this Board of Education, because I believe that there's not one question that is wrong if you don't know the answer. And it's okay to ask, but when we put that stuff out there, the way in which it came out, the news media took it, they're gonna lose 31 jobs. Oh my God, and everybody went to marching. And it's an $8 million, that's not true. This is a living, this budget is alive. This budget is up for discussion. This budget is not finished and finalized. And so the fear tactic and those types of things, what it did to the community, hopefully in the future, these types of things will not happen. They definitely will not happen. And we will be, when it's presented to us, this type of stuff will not go out. This is no reflection on anybody, but this right here that playbook is closed. That playbook is over. You got $20 million, $24 million sitting over here and you go, yeah, we got a $7 million deficit. Make it make sense. That was the thing that went out in this community. That's what I want clarification on as it relates to this budget hearing.
So to give some clarity on that, until the board desires, until the new administration comes in and takes it a good evaluation
Right.
and looks at the positions, if those positions remain, you'll be at a negative $7 million out of the 24 million.
Maybe.
Maybe. I said if.
Yeah.
Notice I said if. I'm being very careful with the wording. If the new incoming administration and the board does not make the necessary changes, you possibly were looking at a net change
Right.
of a negative 7 million to the 24 million.
That's what, and that's why I'm saying the clarification, and that if, there's some things that need to be worked on and
Yes.
negotiated, and there's a possibility that it can be, but just to say, that's not, those are the things that we, because I think the board is working extremely hard as it relates to what it is, the image that's going out. And so our president, who stood firm in her resolve and support, and said, listen, I'll stand alone on this. And so whatever backlash that I get for standing with this, and thank God it wasn't an overabundance of backlash, but she should never have to put herself in that position. Neither one of us should have to ever put ourselves in that position when that is not the case. It's not specifically the case. It could be, but it's not specifically. And I'm so excited about, as you close out and the things that you guys have talked about and where you are and what you worked on as you exit. I really appreciate that, because now we have a clearer picture of how we can function and move forward responsibly, if you will. Thank you.
Okay, so on the next slide.
Can I add a comment?
Oh,
please?
sorry.
I
Yes,
have
ma'am.
permission to speak.
Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Chair butts in this moment. And just to go along with what Secretary Triplett is trying to convey, the board is aware that there is work that is needed as it relates to our budget. However, the law requires that we approve a budget as of June 30th.
Yes.
Currently, where we stand with projections, this is what is anticipated. However, the board is fully aware and has agreed in previous meetings that it will continue to work with administration in looking at the budget and making adjustments. And so we are going to be pursuing approval of the budget later this evening with the understanding that there will be future amendments and future adjustments
Yeah.
to the budget
Yeah.
that will reflect a different net balance. So while this is where we stand currently, there is much work to be done, and the Board of Education and the district are committed to obtaining a more structurally sound budget for 2025-2026.
Thank you, Madam President, for your clarification.
You're welcome.
And
And
I
I
will
will
let-
see if they probably won't quote that soundbite though.
Yeah, right, but you have, there's only certain board members that get that stuff put in the paper.
What you just said?
Thank you so much, Madam President.
I don't know what they don't say anything I say, they don't say anything the president say. I don't know what's going on. I've been watching.
So on the next slide, you'll see the 24-25 fiscal year end budget revision. Basically, it says updating revenue and expenditure accounts, utility and other maintenance account adjustments and other adjustments. So that's speaking to what President Robinson just said. There were some revisions, updating of revenue that will be forthcoming.
Thank you.
On the next slide, the approved 25 millage rates, state levy are 6 mills, operating millage 18 mills, sinking fund 2 mills, total K through 12 26 mills. There are no change in the mills from the local, federal, state taxes. On the next slide, it just has the annual we do.
Can you go back to that local mills thing? Do you know, sorry, do you know how many dollars that are district? So I know people can fill out an application and get exempt from
Right.
the millage. Do you know how many in our tax base, a number wise of how many people are doing that? And how much money is that costing the district by them doing exempt?
So when they do that, they have to be a property owner. So if they're renting, they're not eligible to exempt.
Correct.
So for the ones that actually own property and do the exemption, I'm not sure at this moment, but I can get you that number.
Thank you.
Do our Director of Finance have that?
No, that will be something we would have to get from the different municipalities.
Yes.
In which we get property taxes from.
They don't report that to us when we,
They
Well,
do
we got-
report, they do send us a notice when someone has applied for an exemption and they get approval for the exemption.
yeah,
They do send us those annually, but like, I would need to know like year to date from previous, all together.
have you received, have you received a whole bunch of those notices or anything like that?
No.
Thank you.
What constitutes an exemption?
Can you make sure you speak in the mic, Ms.
What
Raquel?
constitutes an exemption?
Typically, your income constitutes the exemption. So you fall into a certain income bracket or disability, et cetera. So it's income, disability, and I think sometimes age.
Yeah,
And
age,
veteran status as well.
And thank you.
senior. Mhm.
No ideas at the table, please.
And so I think they do hardship as well, which is
Hardship,
related
yes,
to
they
the
do.
income. And it is really a beneficial exemption for our community members that are
Yeah.
struggling because it prevents them from facing things such as, takeover of their home or foreclosure if they're unable to pay their property taxes. So we are grateful for the opportunity that our constituents have that in place, but it is essentially, that was a good question, it is essentially revenue that we're missing out on.
On the slide we have currently is sinking fund allowable expenses. So this just goes through the different expenses that are allowable through the sinking fund. And that's an annual slide that we put up.
And
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Chairman, Superintendent Butts, sorry, much money are we setting at with sinking fund? What's next slide?
Yep, on the next slide. So good slide. So we have the 2017 sinking fund balance. So the beginning balance for this year was $7.14 million.
Is that for this year? Is that what we're gonna start with next year?
That's what we're gonna start with for next year.
That's what I'm saying, not this past year. In 25.
26, you would be starting with 7.1.
7.1 million dollars in our sinking fund.
That's correct.
Thank you.
The estimated revenue to that sinking fund is 1.95 million.
What does that mean?
The money that you expect to get from tax collection.
Okay,
The estimated expenses from that, from our one-time projects, boilers, track, roof, finishing out gym floor, et cetera, other capital projects. The estimated expense out of that is 5.90 million.
question. Some of those projects and those things were from last year.
Yes, one-time
So
expenditures.
so the beginning fund balance of last year was what, $10 million? That's what I'm saying. We got to be clear on that because some of that come from that it should have come from that because those decisions were made under that piece. So it's not like we're gonna go through and we're gonna lose $5 million or that's not the way that it is. And if you're not clear on that, then you will assume, and then everybody will start getting nervous. Oh, our sinking fund is low and low because our sinking fund sat there for years, as you can see with dilapidated buildings and everything that was never used properly. So I'm not asking you for that number. You don't have to go off track like that, Director Carter. But what I'm saying is let's make it clear that those projects was from last year, which I'm thinking was like 10 million or even more. Is that not correct?
That's correct. And when we get to the final 24-25 budget that we'll be reviewing in the next meeting, you'll be able to see the beginning sinking fund balance, what happened during 24-25,
Yes.
and how we came to the beginning balance of the
Of seven.
That's
Cool.
correct.
Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Gavin.
Thank you. This number is not including the possibility of receiving the reimbursement from the ESSER funds. Is that correct?
Correct.
So if we do receive the reimbursement from ESSER funds, what would be the ending fund balance for sinking funds? Just estimated.
Well, that will probably go to the general fund. If we receive that reimbursement, it wouldn't go to the sinking fund.
Okay, it would be the 3 million, extra 3 million, right?
Right now, our request is at 1.9 million. We do have the potential for 3 million, but we'll have to ask for another reimbursement. The last reimbursement that we asked for was only up to 1 point, we have to spend it first. We can't ask for it before we spend it. So that's where we were at with our spending. So that's what we were able to request.
Is there a deadline on when we can request the other portion?
Well, we'll have to hear from our consultant at MDE when that window is going to open again. They opened the window for a short period of time and we were able to submit our documents for additional reimbursement. If they do open it again, we will definitely go for whatever else we've spent since then.
Thank you. Thank you.
So the expense to that, 7.14 million, is estimated to be 5.90 million. With an ending balance of 3.19 million in the sinking fund, a net change of 3.95 million.
Great.
On the next slide, food service allowable expenses. So as you know, last year we did the board approved a lot of food service changes. We bought new equipment, we bought new furniture, we bought a lot of things through the food service. So these allowable expenses were some of the things that we spent on through our food service program from last year. So you can take a look at that.
Got a question on that.
Yes, sir.
So Taylor is not supplying, they're just supplying their food. They're not supplying none of their clean?
So
Or-
we get a certain amount that goes into their budget. So we get a food service amount and it goes to their budget and they spend from there. So it's not like it just comes to us, that money is specific for food service. So it goes into their budget for them to spend.
I do know that I do know that they have their own utensils and things that they provide, like their own special knives and things like that, because I
Yeah.
used, I used the facility once and they were very clear on me not touching the equipment that they have. So there are some things that I know that they brought in, some minor things that they needed for themselves.
Very, Madam President, and it's very minor, the thing that they bring in. And this is the thing, because they are not the only food service that's been, that we partnership with. And the thing about it, this stuff, the majority of the stuff in there belongs to Benton Harbor area schools. They come in, they ain't buy not one stove or anything. So a lot of times I think people get confused on what it is, because that stuff belongs to the taxpayers of Benton Harbor area school.
I get it. I just, I wondered about, do they don't supply their knives, all of that knives and stuff stay here, and then I can go and bid that, and bid on it when we're done with it, right?
Yeah.
All right.
On the food service fund, as you'll see on the next slide, their budget is quite limited. Their beginning fund balance is $280,000. So it's reported as 0.28 million, but it's $280,000. The revenue estimated coming into the food service fund for next year is 1.10 million. The estimated expense, 1.28 million, with the ending fund balance of 10,000. 100,000, excuse me, 100,000. Sorry about that. 100,000.
Making us nervous.
I'm telling you, when I said it, when it came out, I'm like, oh, sorry about that, 100,000.
We gotta call the church kitchens.
With a net change of $180,000. So it's still on the positive.
Great.
Still positive. There's a net change, but it's still a positive. If it doesn't have brackets around it, it's positive. Student activity fund.
This one.
Okay, so with the student activity fund, there basically no change. It balanced out. So at the ending fund balance and the beginning fund balance is $115,500.
Now that, sorry, I can, sorry.
So for me, this right here has always been, it's like it's a ghost account. How do when we talk about student activity fund, the function of the student activity fund, everything that we do should be for our students. How do we still have this money in here, year after year, and we don't spend, it doesn't go to our students? What is it sitting there for? I don't have an understanding of what it is. Because one thing that for me, where I work, I've seen the principal go buy shirts for the whole school and pass those shirts out for student sections and homecoming, and I have so much paraphernalia and things from the school, from their budgets, and people are calling from out of town and asking, can I find one Benton Harbor Tiger t-shirt? This is a student activity fund. What is this?
That is not. Our student activity funds are normally funds that the students have raised. And then the expenses are normally the expenses that go out for the money that they've raised. And we have a balance in our student activity fund because we have various clubs, groups, class of whatever year, all of those different accounts are in the student activity fund. So it has, it has gained interest, it has accumulated income over the years, so we have a balance. But the student activity fund is normally from money that students have raised, and then they normally have something that they want to buy with those funds, and then that's where the expense comes in.
So for example, the prom committee, the seniors the juniors traditionally, I don't know, people have just squandered our traditions. But the juniors usually sponsor the prom for the senior class. Okay, so the junior class, you know, we hear people, the advisors begging for money outside on the street, on Facebook. The band begging for money for this and that and the other, and it's just it's not right. Or you know, we have I know our class left $5,000. And then we came back to get it, and years later, it was gone. So, I mean, this fund right here is weird to me. I need some understanding of what this is, and we don't have to do it tonight. But that's something that I mean, how are they raising money? And every year they're begging for money.
And I would just like to put it on the record, that's one of my major pet peeves.
Yes.
I'm all for the community supporting and giving us money and things like that, but I guess what the clarification that we need, and like Secretary Triplett said today, we don't necessarily need it today, but
Right.
we don't have a full understanding of what things are allowable to be purchased with those funds and what things can't. Like he said, there's always requests for donations and things for them to go on trips or help us get money to feed the kids and things like that. And
Yes.
so just kind of wanting to have a better understanding of how we have $150,000 balance, but then we'll get on Facebook tomorrow and see the football team.
Make me not want
And
to.
there's no
asking for
request,
money.
you know, there's no request coming to our office for funds before they, I don't know if they just assume that there's no money. Because they
We've
don't,
had GoFundMe's and I've seen
yeah, I've
GoFundMe's.
seen them too, and just like with the prom, you know, I met, the prom committee was wonderful, we met on a regular basis, you know, whatever they didn't raise, I made it clear that there were student activity funds available to cover whatever's left after they, you know, spend the money that they've raised. You know, the prom the previous year was paid fully from student activity funds because that class, you know, happened to not do any fundraisers. So, you know, I don't know if it's just an assumption, because if we get the request in our office, we fund it. So that's why I say I haven't been asked for funds and said no. And so I'm not sure. I wish I could have
So
a better
that
answer
might,
for you.
so as a follow-up to that for the future, for the upcoming school year, that may need to be some clarity provided to our coaches, because we do, most often when I see, it's never the head coaches. It's the assistants or the other volunteers. I've seen teachers asking for things like for fashion club and things like that.
Yeah,
And I know I
and-
asked you about
and-
that before.
Yeah, and
So just making sure they're aware that those systems are in place and they can request what they need. We don't need to beg
Yeah.
for anything.
no, we don't. And like
Okay.
I say, I don't know if it's
It's
just
not that I don't want the donations or appreciate them because they help us to save money, but
But it makes.
we have the funds, yeah.
Our kids are out here begging, you know, like, you know, just when I got to here, I was getting ready to eat and I just didn't feel like eating anymore. Because this right here is free. I feel like I'm eating off of their funds and stuff, and I don't, you know.
Okay,
Kidding with you, but yeah, seriously though, seriously.
thank you
But
so
no,
much.
our clubs, our teams, especially our athletic teams, they do not have to do any of that.
Okay.
Why is there a
Trustee, Trustee Doyle has had her finger up for a minute.
Cause my question was for the athletes, they ain't even got no tents, and these uniforms that they run around in is absolutely crazy. It's hot as heck, and they got these thick, hot uniforms on. I'm not understanding why.
Yeah, we have
Our-
brand new tents, brand new, beautiful tents.
You just
I know we had them last year for the back to school bashes when we bought them. I don't know if you had a chance to stop by,
Mhm.
but we have beautiful tents. We have brand new ones.
And I-
Bags for them. to
Yeah,
carry
it's a
in.
disconnect because I think it was Coach Gillespie and Coach Jennings in that last meeting. What he clarified is that he inherited so much coming in that they've been so far in knowing that things like the track cost money and things like that. I remember Coach Gillespie saying there are certain things that they have not asked for, and they've tried to make it work with what they have. But I think that that's a culture that has been developed historically because we've been struggling financially, and so it's carried forward. So we just have to do a better job at relaying the message to our staff that that funding is here. Just
So-
submit it or request it. And I think trustee Bowens Vice President Bowens has a comment. or
So
question.
I guess, Madam President, maybe a directive to you, you don't normally get orders from us, but maybe a directive needs to be that every club gets a mandate that is told that they have this. Because even if you look at like the robotic club or different clubs, we're being told different things. So if it's a standardized memo that there is a student activity fund and there is, maybe we need to put a,
But what we do is each, like for athletics, we share a spreadsheet with the coach and the athletic director. And on the spreadsheet shows your beginning balance, any revenue you've received, any expenses, and your ending balance. We started that right after Mr. Jennings started, and we shared that, and it's by team. So there's a sheet for the track team, so they know what they have in their student activity account, the cheerleaders, we keep track of them at the business office. They're shared Google Sheets, so everyone has access to their balance, what's going on with their monies, and if they need to request anything, they know the balance and
so
how to contact
I
them.
guess my question is that student activity fund just for the sports? Or if I was a
No,
debate
there's
club,
also robotic
robotic
pads.
club,
Yep.
If
all
they,
this
we
for
share their spreadsheet,
So
whatever
direct-
class of whatever.
Carter, can you send the memo, the memo he's referencing?
Yes.
But the issue is going to be, well, not really an issue. A task at hand is getting it not just to the athletic director, but ensuring that those, not just the head coach get it, but those other coaches get it as well. Because like I said, it's never the head coach that I see posting. They're not asking for the donations. It's some of the volunteers.
Yeah, and
And they may not even be paid by, but paid, they
Yeah.
volunteers sometimes go out and try to.
And we're hoping to
fund.
be more transparent, more, just have more information out there. So not only do they know the balance, what's the process to request the funds? How far in advance should we be requesting things before it's needed? All of these things, we're trying to kind of put a manual together to share with all of the departments.
I like
We
that.
have a formal process in place. Everyone is aware of it, and then we can start making that a regular practice.
Ms. Rocket Martin has been waiting for a while.
Before we proceed, I just want to make sure it's noted, it is 6:40 PM. Our second special meeting should have started at 6:30. However, I just want to let the public know that meeting, it's all one inclusive meeting, 2 meetings back to back. We will start that second meeting after this meeting is adjourned and we've had an opportunity to have a brief recess. So I apologize for the delay in our next meeting, and then you can go to Rocket Martin.
I can remember that all of the student activity funds, that included all of the buildings and the activities. If we raised money, we would put it in our student activity fund. It was up to us as principals to keep in touch of ledger of what we had. And so you request your funds, couldn't be for everything. It had to be a student-centered activity. And if you did not spend it, it carried over the following year. So there may be funds in here from schools that were even closed
Yes.
that have not been spent. When I closed McCord, I made sure I spent every penny on the kids because I wanted them to get that benefit. But I'm sure there is money in here from probably Boynton, Bard, Fairplay, East, Sorter, every school, because they did not probably spend all of the money that they raised.
That's correct.
I think that, I'll close out with this. I coached cheerleading for 28 years. And the budget, I knew exactly what was in my budget. I had to request if I was going to buy, varsity cheerleaders, new uniform. The varsity uniforms, all uniforms went down to junior varsity. The junior varsity uniform went down to the freshmen. The freshman uniforms went down to our middle school. And I think, for our kids, I felt so bad for our track, our girls track, our track team that went to state. I felt, I had an opportunity. It was my responsibility as we closed out to go and represent my school, okay, in an administrative role. to go there and be the administrator on duty to report back. And to see the things that those kids had, those kids were up the night before. Those kids had great hotel accommodation. We're in the 11th hour asking for our kids, can they get a hotel room? Asking, can our kids get transportation? That is unacceptable and it is negligence. And that is the responsibility of when the athletic director, the interim athletic director comes, you have to ask us, you have to have a special meeting for stuff like that. To me, this is just moving forward. So when you look at this budget and people have these type of concerns, because it is also an administrator, the principal of that building, who's responsible for all of that as it relates to their students. That's the role. And so we can no longer sit here and be silent because we're complicit. So yeah, I'm good with the 115
And then,
activity fund.
the only other thing that I will mention as well is that
Embarrassing.
I think that the funding that we invest into our student athletes or all of our student activities is also important and relevant to their identities as individuals.
Yes.
Because we are relaying to them what we think of them and what their worth is. And so imagine going to a school like St. Joseph or Berrien Springs and they have on brand new uniforms and come in with bags and things like that. And then we have, for example, like our middle school kids, they just come in and with regular Gildan t-shirts and bottoms and things like that. And what they have is functional and it works. But I just want to make sure that our kids know that they are equivalent to any other kid, any other athlete, any other activity from any other district, you know, in the surrounding areas. And so I think it starts with us, because you said it starts at home, but we're their home. And so we're building their self-identity as individuals. And I think what we invest in, even the extracurricular activities that they're doing that they don't have to do, says a lot. So,
And Madam
And
President,
Ms. Dahl,
I would just like to add that the girls' track team has been the state for the last 3 years. 3 years and same for girls. No recognition. They got St. Joe, Berrien Springs, all of them got pictures of all their teams up around the field and things like that. I really think it's important that we let these kids know that we're proud of the hard work they're doing. And not only did they go to state for the last 3 years, they did it without a track.
That part. With the show.
took me to church because people say, you know, a lot of times in society we say people should pull themselves up by their bootstraps. And so the response to that, well, what if you don't have boots? And so that's how our students have been.
Yeah.
They haven't had the boots, they haven't had a track, and they still are excelling. So that's an amazing point to add. And of course, we've kind of gotten, this is in relation to the budget hearing, and we've kind of gotten into a conversation that we've had before that's you know, serious to us. And so, of course, none of this impacts whether we choose to approve the budget or anything of that nature, but it's just something that we want to make sure a pin is put in so that when we come back next year and look at the budget, we can see that we have utilized a lot of those funds.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Okay. I think Trustee Gavin had a question or a comment.
Thank you. Ditto what everybody said. I have a problem with an art teacher requesting funds for color pencils or crayons or anything in our district. And
Right.
I'm hoping that whatever our process is, this is not a blaming anyone, but whatever the process is, we streamline it so that the boots on the ground can get what they need as quickly as they need to service our students. And I just want to raise, like, before we leave, if I can get that asset, if I can get that, what are our assets?
It's on the monthly reports. This is the board budget hearing.
I know, you said that you would get that for us during
If
this
you
year.
look at the next agenda for the next meeting, it's already linked. And
Do you have the number? That's what I was
Oh,
asking.
the number, oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I can pull it up.
Thank you.
And while she pulls that up, the next step will be board approval. I think we've gone through the questions, comments, and concerns. So when Ms. Carter finds that answer, that will be my conclusion of the budget hearing for the 25-26 school year.
Thank you, Dr. Buck.
Okay, so I'll proceed while, oh, Ms. Brock, you ready, Ms. Brock Carter? All right.
It's actually on page 28 of the monthly reports, the total assets for the district. You want the whole total of all of our assets?
Yes, please.
$45,069,000. I'm sorry, $45,069,801.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so if there's no other questions or comments from the board at this particular time, very insightful conversation. Next on the agenda is public Q&A. So are there any members of the public today that have a comment or a question related to the budget hearing? All right, hearing none, we'll proceed. Up next is open public comment. Is there anyone present that would like to make an open public comment? All right, hearing. Okay. And I know that you're familiar with the public comment statement. You don't need me to read that today? Can we pause and get her a mic, please?
Oh, Lord. No, not you. Dick, I'm gonna tell you, you run off, you have to, it's.
District, he is
in
borough.
Brenda Terrell, teacher in the district, also union president. But I just came up here today with UNISERV director. And, you know, we listened to the budget and it's very interesting to hear, and it's a lot of work, and I know it's a lot of work. So I just commend you all on your good work. And I would like to say that today marks the 45th year of the Benton Harbor High School class of 1980s anniversary, because the teachers were on strike the year that we graduated. So we graduated June 26th. 1980. The best class ever. Thank you.
The district.
That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Yeah, they were our sophomores.
Being on strike.
All right, so technically up next, we have adjournment. It is about 6:50. We are going to take a quick 10-minute recess. And then come back into our special meeting of the board that should have started at 6:30. So of course, we apologize for the delay, but we're still meeting. So we appreciate those that are tuned in virtually. I do want to let the board know that I do have in your next meeting packet, there's a resolution for our interim superintendent. But I was able to get the addendum hashed out today. So I'm going to give everyone a copy of that to look over. And then we will have that discussion in the special meeting that we're about to start at 7. But I just wanted to make sure you all were aware that you have those documents. I know that it is the 11th hour, but I had to I'll give you all the clarifications regarding that as to why you're getting it in the 11th hour. But I just wanted to make sure that we were able to have it before the table today to meet that 6:30 deadline. So I am going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Is there a second or support?
Support.
The motion has been made by Secretary Triplett and supported by VP Bowens. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, Secretary Triplett?
President Robinson,
Yes.
Vice President Bowen,
Yes.
Secretary Triplett, yes. Trustee Rocket Martin, Trustee Doyle,
Yes.
Trustee Gavin,
Yes.
motion carried.
All right, so our this special meeting is adjourned as of 6:51 PM. Given the additional minute or two that we went over, we'll begin our next meeting around about 7:02 PM. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. This meeting is an in-person meeting held at 870 Colfax here in Benton Harbor. In addition, a live stream of this meeting is available at the following link. Questions may be submitted beforehand to natalie.singer@bhas.org or presented in person during the public comment section as indicated in the agenda. Board members may be contacted through the emails listed below. Requests for special assistance, including for persons with disabilities, may be sent to natalie.singer@bhas.org. I call this meeting to order officially at 7:09 p.m. I would just like to notate for the public that this is our second meeting for the evening, so please please accept our apologies for the 40-minute delay in start time. It's only because we just ended our 5:30 meeting. So at this time, we'll begin by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Gavin, what did you say? Do we have to do all of this again? Yes, we do. It's technically a new meeting, so I have to go through the formalities, but I'll do it quickly. Secretary Triplett, can you please call the roll?
President Robinson,
Present.
Vice President Bowens, Secretary Triplett, Present, Treasurer Bradley, Trustee Rocket Martin,
Present.
Trustee Gavin,
Present.
Trustee Doyle.
Present.
Quorum has been established, Madam President.
Up next, we have approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
I so move.
Second. All right, the motion has been made by Secretary Triplett and supported by Trustee Doyle. Questions, comments, or concerns?
President Robinson.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so forgive me, we did get the agenda a little late. I am wondering why, I thought this was just a budget the budget meeting. And we have the food service renewal contract on here. I'm wondering why those two, the food service and the workers' compensation renewal, is this just for discussion or are we expected to vote on these things?
So the hope is that we will vote, if I'm correct, these are items that are time sensitive to the 30th of the month. However, in the event that the board is not ready to proceed with the vote on either item this evening, I'm perfectly fine with us reconvening on Monday.
You mean for another meeting?
Yes, so
No,
that's their deadline.
Not interested in that. I'm just wondering if there's accompanying information in terms of survey responses and things of that nature. The food service in particular, I've been surveying students and I really wanted to have some input from other folks before I weighed in on this one.
All right, Dr. Buss, can you respond to that question?
Yes, Madam President. Trustee Gavin, the food service contract, it's a year by year. And if we wanted to do that, it has to be approved through MDE first. So that's when we first got this company, we started so early. So had I known earlier, I would have because it has to be RFP approved through MDE. And then the board takes a vote on it. So for next year, if it's the will of the board, then you all can certainly go out for another RFP and or however you like to proceed.
You say you already went out for the RFP?
No, ma'am.
Yes,
So what I was saying was, in order to change food service companies, there has to be an RFP, and then it has to go to the state for approval. That company has to be approved with the state. So if the board so chooses and the new administration so chooses to get a new food service company, it has to go through that entire process. Other than that, this contract goes for another school year.
thank you.
I do have to say this because I do want this on the record. This is something that we have had to do repeatedly, and we've ended up, it has really, we've suffered a lot because of this. Because of this contract should have been discussed 2 or 3 months ago. And I think that's something that, hopefully with the next administration, that when we look at the contract that we do have, that we set, this is no shade, this is serious business. Yeah, but that, you know, that they are able, I'm quite sure they're probably, some of them are watching as well. Like some people from Burn Oak probably is watching here, so I'm not gonna go hard on you, sir.
I thought the same thing.
I'm not gonna go hard on you, but in all sincerity, you know, in the future, you know, like when we have things from the Board of Education, when we look at it, because we do have some things that we need to do as well. So we should know when we have, it's not just your responsibility or the superintendent's responsibility, it should be a part of our board work. Because we did have that piece, Madam President, remember we had the thing that, which is the standard thing that happens in the state of Michigan for all school board trustee Gavin. Like it says, like in June, this is what y'all should be doing. Y'all should be doing certain projects in May. Make sure all of your food service contracting things. So those are some things that we can definitely look forward to in the near future. In the meantime, because I do have some concerns and have talked to students and have heard. So even if we vote for this and it's too late, basically, to not vote for it, but there are some things that I think that we need to go to the table on behalf of our children when we talk about the vendors, because I do remember one of the candidates saying that they would definitely meet with vendors and make sure that they are doing the things that we expect them to do as before we go into partnership, as we've gone into partnership. So thank you.
I think you're referring to the MASB calendar. Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, not just MASB. No, it's nothing to do with MASB. We have a calendar for the board and what's expected of us for the whole entire year that we approve,
The board calendar.
our board calendar.
So I just want to remind the board that we're just at approval of the agenda. We still have that section to get to. So if there's no other questions or comments regarding the agenda itself, Secretary Triplett, can you please call the vote?
President Robinson.
Yes.
Vice President Bowens. Yes. Secretary Triplett, yes. Trustee Rocket Martin. Trustee Gavin.
Yes.
Trustee Doyle.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right. So for review of board norms, I just read them about an hour and 10 minutes ago. So just reminder to the board to be respectful of the Board of Education norms for Benton Harbor area schools. Up next, we have public comment on agenda items. Is there anyone present that would like to make a public comment on an agenda item? Hearing none, we'll proceed. Protocol as of 9/13/2022. All comments will be limited to 2 minutes per trustee per topic. Under board business, our first item is a superintendent search update. So as you all are aware, I'll be doing these updates until we have a contract signed and a superintendent on board. Just want to make sure that the public is informed regardless of what meeting they tune into. So where we stand, as a reminder, there were 26 applications with 23 qualified. In May of 2025, we held community input sessions and a superintendent work group. June 7, 2025, there were 6 first-round finalists selected. June 14, 2025, 5 first-round finalists were interviewed because one found another employer prior to interviews and withdrew. We selected our second-round finalists on that date. We also appointed interim superintendent, Dr. Burnick, pending contract negotiations. June 24th, 2025, we held a public meet and greet, presentations, and Q&A. Between June 14th and July 8th, we are conducting in-depth comprehensive background searches. All 3 candidates surveyed have also been surveyed regarding benefits and compensation by HYA. So they have asked them to, as a precursor, give them an idea of what amount or base salary and what particular benefits that they would hope for, so that once we get to the point of actually voting on a candidate, we have an idea of where they're starting from and we can have easier negotiations. We also have developed a community survey that is scheduled to launch as long as you all are in approval of it. My preference would be that it launches this evening or tomorrow. I do have today, but it could also be tomorrow. And it would go through Sunday, July 7th. This will give us an opportunity to get more feedback from the public. And if Ms. Singer could do me the honor of opening that, I don't think I have a tangible copy. So the board can kind of see it and it'll be on the screen behind you. It's not linked. That's because I did it. Hold on 1 second. I can read it. I don't know if it, Ms. Booth shared it to me. Okay. And just as a funny side tangent, I just received an email from press about how often they quote me. You're tuned in and listening. Hello, Louise. Nice to see you too.
She would not put me. I will not.
Okay, so I just shared it with Miss Singer. And then hopefully she'll be able to pull it up for the board.
President Robinson,
Your calls.
The press is the
President
fund of
Robinson,
us.
Yes.
can she share it with us too?
Yep, I can share it with the full board. That might make it a little bit easier.
There's a bit of a glare.
Glare from your end, okay. Okay, so I have it pulled up in the meantime. Okay, so superintendent search community feedback, if you want, it starts with if you were unable to watch the finalist presentations in person, you can watch the full recording here. I thought it was important that they had access to that link. Whether you joined us in person or watched online, we welcome and value your input. Thank you for participating in the superintendent search process. So the first question is standard. What is your relationship to Benton Harbor area schools? How did you engage with the superintendent finalist presentations on June 24th, 2025? They'll let us know if they were here in person, they watched them online live, or they did not attend or watch the presentations. And that'll kind of help us gauge whether they were here and have had an opportunity to look at that information. Please rank the superintendent finalists in order of your preference, with 1 being your top choice and 3 being your least preferred. So they can tell us how they rank them similar to how they did in person. What feedback would you like to share about Mr. Jeff Dace as a finalist for superintendent? What feedback would you like to share about Dr. Simone Griffin? What feedback would you like to share about Dr. Dallas Lee? And then the last question is there anything else you'd like the Board of Education to consider during the superintendent selection process? And so I wanted to get you all's thoughts on that, if you thought it was sufficient to go out. The only question I have for you all is whether we should require the Google email link. I believe that we've done it both ways as a district. The benefit of requiring the Google email is that it's able to ensure that we don't have one person giving us multiple responses. The limitation is that if a person doesn't have a Google email account, they can't take the survey.
So
Vice President Bowens?
can you go back up on the survey a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I was gonna say, go down and those are questions.
Uh-huh.
And the questions, what feedback would you like?
Yep, so they have an
So-
opportunity to rate the candidates and then they can give us feedback.
This is just me. When you're doing surveys,
Mhm.
sometimes you can get a campaign to go against all of them.
Can't hear.
You can get a campaign to go against all of them. So do you want to do 1 to 5? How would you grade this superintendent candidate? 5 or 4, 3? I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I've seen some.
Well, I think with the way that it is, they can't go against all 3 because they have to rate,
Well,
you have to
but the
rate.
part on the feedback part.
Right, but so the thing about it, and I get what you're saying, but they have to select somebody as number 1,
Okay.
as the number 1 option.
So there isn't an option for them to make any recommendation for anybody else. It's based on our 3. But if
Mhm.
they want to discuss or want to say, in the last question, the last portion of the survey.
They
that
can give us
think
any
that
general
they can give us
feedback.
That feedback, on there, but the thing is, we're asking them to do it. I think that it should go with the Google format, where they'll
Okay.
only have one time.
Triplet, the mic, they can't hear you.
I'm
Second
sorry,
triplet,
that
sorry.
they'll only have one time to do the survey. I don't think that we should participate in the survey.
Absolutely.
So we should not do it ourselves, but if people want to do it, because it is important to have, and I think this is something that Trustee Gavin has always said, you know, and always pushed and wanted to do was to give the community an opportunity to voice their opinion, whether we agree with it or not. The decision, we will have to make the final decision, but it's good to have that kind of feedback and to start a very, a relationship, a genuine relationship with our community and our alumni and, you know, everybody. So it's good. And I think that's a great thing. And if it can be done tonight, for me, I don't see why we should pause at all to go forward.
And that was I did ask Ms. Booth, because she had a time to go out yesterday, and I told her that I wanted to run it by you all because we had discussed surveys as an option, but then we didn't use it in the beginning. And I didn't want a random survey to go out before you all had an opportunity to review it. But I can see, do you think that would be something that would be feasible to shoot that out this evening?
Yes, ma'am, it's simple.
It's simple. Okay, so we can have it start this evening and then it can end Sunday.
What you think? Ms. Gavin?
You have the floor.
Thank you. I'm very grateful that we're doing this. And I like the way the survey is designed completely. My only question is if we're only allowing, is it only allowing Google emails? What that does then is that excludes a whole group of people who
Still
Yahoo, you know, I know some
Yahoo.
I know some smart people, you know, some really smart people who still using AOL or something, so obviously, so that's the only concern. I know we want to make sure it's valid, but I'm scared of the idea of excluding the population of people that, even though I'm a Google person, excluding that population of people is the.
I agree with that, Madam President. So I'll take back my comment.
Okay, so we can leave it open
Yeah.
with just the I would hope that, I know that we have a wide range municipality of individuals, but I would hope, and I'm asking that our community is integral and does not take the survey multiple times. Because we want to truly have a reflection of the community's voice. Now, to be completely transparent, we barely get over 200 responses with the surveys, but I think that if we each use our networks to send it out via text, via social media, because we're not only board members, we're parents, we're alumni, so we have various channels that we can spread that news and really ask people to give us that feedback. And if they don't, it's like I told them at the meeting, this is your opportunity to talk to us. So you're going to be kind of falling on deaf ears if you come back July 9th with complaints, because we've given you every opportunity to give us that feedback. And so that's why I didn't want there to be, some people couldn't make it. Some people were frustrated and didn't want to come. Different people are in different seasons, but I just wanted to extend an alternative opportunity to give people an opportunity to give that feedback. Trustee Doyle?
Yes, is there a way that we can possibly get it out to our students as well, our returning students or past students?
Dr. Best, is there internal communication? We can post it,
Yes,
can't
ma'am.
we?
It's,
Print and post it in the schools
you
and
can
things
print
like
and post
that.
it, it's through a share, so we can send it out either way.
So if we could do this similar to how we've done the Masters Facility Survey, I see the survey posted on doors at all of our school buildings and things like that. That way, if people are coming in, they can scan a QR code. But I can connect with Ms. Booth on that. So we'll try to get that sent out this evening. So it'll run through June 26th through July 7th, and I'll tell her no to requiring the email. And then we will have the outcome of that survey available for the board on our July 8th meeting, so we can see what the public has seen, has communicated to us.
And Madam President,
Yes.
another thing too, the survey is for us to get information.
Mhm.
It does not mean because, 200 people or 150 people felt this way or felt that way, that was because that's a very small percentage
Of the
of the population. And another thing, and that's one thing that I hope that we look forward to in the near future. We made major decisions, and it really traumatized me during the pandemic. We made a major decision to close our schools down, and it was only 39 people that responded to that survey. And that has shaken me you know, from since then. You know, how do we get our, you know, these surveys out to our parents, our school community?
Mhm.
What role, and I ask this again, what role do the principals play in this? You know, they have a major role. They should have a network of parents who come and show up for everything for their kids. They should make sure that they push it. I have our teachers to call. This is in the future. Call your students in your class, your classroom. You call those parents and say, we have a survey out. Can you, you know, we have all of these positions that's helping with I don't know what you call the position, but they're parent liaisons and different things in those buildings. That should be a part of their checklist of their responsibility to make sure that the parents of their schools are actively informed and that they are encouraged to participate. So yeah, but it doesn't mean it's really it's information for us because many of the Board of Education, as I said at the previous meeting, I think you guys did a great job, an absolutely amazing job presenting and identifying those persons to bring before this community. And I was very impressed, and I, you know, to say the least, you know, I trust you and I trusted you. You all are elected officials. And what you said, Madam President, when people came and said negative things about what they thought the board was
Yeah.
doing and what they haven't. Well, we do have trustees up here on this Board of Education who have children who attend these schools. You know, Trustee Gavin, her son attends Ben Harbor area schools. We have Tiger sitting back in the back in the meeting right now. He hasn't held his head up yet from the phone, but he is one of our students in Ben Harbor area school, and your two children. You know, Trustee Doyle's daughter, one of our state finalists and honorees, attend Ben Harbor area school. So why would any of my great nieces and my nieces and nephews, my cousins' children and grandchildren, attend this school district? And so why would we do something that's going to hurt or harm them? So you guys have done a great job. I think we're doing a wonderful thing, Madam President.
Ms. Singer, he's not very keen on the food service.
Mm, mm.
Oh, he'll take this. Yeah, I'm not shocked by that. Okay, so I hear you absolutely, Secretary Triplett. So we'll get that sent out today. And then, and did you let her know not to require the email? Okay. And then up next, July 8th, 2025, we have our superintendent selection pending contract negotiations. So just wanted to make sure the public was aware of where we are. Our next topic of business is the contract of employment amendment. So I try to get important things like this to the board in a much more timely manner. However, I had to give Dr. Buss and Dr. Burnick an opportunity to look at his current duties and determine whether or not he was going to designate them to an alternative staff or whether he was going to maintain those. And so that did impact potential amounts for the interim contract. So because you all have not had an opportunity to review it, I will kind of go over it. This is public information, and I did give Dr. Burnick a heads up that I was gonna kind of run through it just so I can be clear, making sure everyone's clear on what we're approving. So what you have is Dr. Burnick's original contract of employment as an administrator. He has been compensated at a rate previously of $105,000. What I am suggesting to the board as your president, and Dr. Burnick has communicated that this is something that he is also comfortable with, is that we compensate him at a rate of $145,000 annually. So we would be making an increase of $40,000 on an annual basis, but it only breaks down bi-weekly. So I did give you all the email that I sent to Dr. Burnick, but I'll kind of highlight the duties. I'm gonna read through the full amendment. If we need to have discussion, we can, and then we'll proceed. So in accordance with the action found in June 26, 2025 meeting minutes for the Board of Education, the Ben Harbor Area Schools, the district, the board employs Dr. Christopher Burnick, the administrator, as interim superintendent of schools according to paragraph 14 of the administrator's current employment contract and the terms and conditions of his contract amendment. contract amendment, which supplements the administrator's employment contract as the district director of special education, having a term of July first through June 30th, 2026, which remains in full effect. And just for clarity, his actual contract is through June 30th, 2025, but when it's not non-renewed, it automatically extends for an additional year. Duties, administrator shall perform the duties of the position of interim superintendent of schools as scheduled and established by the board, or as such duties are changed from time to time by the board and as prescribed by the state and federal laws and policies and regulations of the board in a professional and competent manner. In addition, his duties as interim superintendent administrator will continue to perform his duties as the director of special education as directed by the board. Qualifications, the administrator represents that he holds all certificates and other qualifications required by law for his administrative assignment and understands that it is his responsibility to maintain all such required certificates during the term of this contract amendment, or the board's appointment will become null and void. Compensation, during the time administrator serves as interim superintendent, administrator will receive a stipend of $153.84 per day, in addition to the administrator's current salary and benefits as director of special education. This amount is subject to deductions required by law. Administrators shall receive no other remuneration for services rendered under this contract amendment. So then, to reference the email, the daily stipend amount is prorated based on the total desired salary of $145,000. This amount is based on the difference between his current salary of $105,000 and the $145,000 divided by his total number of work days under his contract, which is 260. So essentially, we're making up for $40,000 annually divided by 260 days. The daily rate breaks down to $153.84 additional a day. So that's explanation of that amount that I'm suggesting. Tenure, administrator agrees that he shall not be deemed to be granted continuing tenure in the position of interim superintendent or any other capacity by virtue of this contract amendment or any employment assignments within the district. Term, the parties agree administrator's employment as interim superintendent is of at will nature, which means that the assignment is terminable at any time by either party and without cause. The parties agree that administrator has no expectation of employment as interim superintendent for any fixed duration, and that this contract amendment and all obligations hereunder may be canceled at any time by the board. So that gives us the flexibility, once we have our superintendent finalized and the contract signed, that we can mutually end the agreement. Non-renewal, to the extent and non-renewal of the administrator as interim superintendent is governed by the provisions of section 1229 of the revised school code. Administrator waives notice of non-renewal of this contract amendment under the enactment. To the extent that such notice may not be waived or is otherwise required to be given, administrator acknowledges notice of non-renewal of this contract amendment through his signature on this document. It is further agreed and stipulated that no individual administrator, board member, or other agent or employee of the board has the authority to alter or amend this at-will employment relationship or the terms of this contract amendment other than by formal action of the board. Administrator agrees his employment is intended to fill the position of superintendent while the board is in the process of selecting an individual to fill the office of superintendent on a permanent basis. Fringe benefits, administrators shall receive the same fringe benefits as provided in his employment contract as the director of special ed. Amendment, this contract amendment may be amended or modified only in writing and signed by the parties who have been given express authority by the board. This provision cannot be waived. So one of the things that Dr. Burnick did indicate that he's extremely serious about is that in the event that the superintendent selection or finalization of the contract goes longer than expected, and we think that we're going to be in this, we are going to need him going into the school year, he would like to revisit this amendment. And it may involve redelegating his duties internally, organizationally, so he doesn't have to balance both ways, or if we find organizationally that there is no way to readjust his duties, then we can determine at that time if we think there's more compensation needed, because once school starts, his load as director of special ed and superintendent would be quite intensive to manage both. So this gives us the standard flexibility to make an adjustment if we go longer than expected. 9, severability. If any provisions of this contract amendment becomes or is declared by a court of competent jurisdiction to be illegal, unenforceable, or void, this amendment shall continue in full force and effect without said provisions. 10, this contract amendment, together with the administrator's employment contract, contains all of the agreements of the parties with respect to any matter covered or mentioned in this contract amendment or the employment contract, and no prior agreement, understanding, or representation pertaining to any such matter shall be effective for any purpose. In witness whereof, the parties have caused this contract amendment to be executed on the date and year noted. So I'll open the floor. We do have a resolution to read, but I did want to get you all's thoughts on the amount as noted, if you all think it's sufficient, if there's any concerns about it.
I think that was something that we did with our current superintendent when he stepped into the interim role as interim superintendent. And I think just also with Dr. Burnick keeping his responsibility as a director of special education, I think that's a critical piece. I do have a concern about the concern that I have is in his office, the administrative assistant or whomever the person is that assists him in special education division is out. And I think that something needs to happen. Maybe Dr. Buss can assist us in this before he leaves, or Dr. Burnick can start taking that role of identifying somebody to be in there throughout the summer to do that work until that person returns on an interim basis. The role that Miss Singer will have will be definitely
Related to
kind of like
superintendent.
onboarding him, taking the information. It's a good thing that Dr. Burnick and Dr. Buss had a great relationship, a good relationship. So I'm quite sure there are things that he would transition and help him with along the way as he closes out his tenure here. So that piece right there, it has nothing to do with this, but it has everything to do with this. When he steps in there, somebody has to be in that role
To support him.
to support. So if there's someone in Dr. Burnick that you know that have done that, a previous clerk or someone that could come in and you won't miss any flowing, then I think that we should also know that that is something that has to happen and needs to happen. And how that looks.
Thank you, Secretary Triplett. Absolutely agree. Any other feedback from the board, concerns?
Madam President,
You have the floor.
So I understand with the compensation, and would it be beneficial for the district to pay as a 1099?
I don't know that legally we can do that. He's an employee.
Okay,
He's not a contractor.
okay.
Any other questions or concerns? I am gonna read the resolution, but I would also again like to, you don't need me to read it?
No,
Okay.
I think we can read.
So I would just like to also take this time to thank Dr. Burnick again for offering to stand in the gap during this transition. And God works in amazing ways, because when I had once we figured out that he was going to do both roles, I gave him the conversation. We initiated conversations actually today about the amount. And so I started with asking him, what is your idea of the amount that you think is sufficient in your compensation? And he gave me a certain amount, and I actually increased it 5,000 because you're doing two roles. And this is also in alignment with what we've done with interims previously. So I thank you. I mean, and I did joke with him. I said, you probably thought the negotiation was gonna go a little rougher than that. But I thank you, and I just also just want to indicate, I think in your email, or at some point you referenced to the board that you know that your specialty is special education, but you think that you could be the superintendent. And what I was sharing with Secretary Triplett is that I want to ensure that you don't see that as a limitation for yourself. Because if you can be trusted by this district to be responsible for the learning environment for those that have learning disabilities, then you are quite capable of ensuring that every child receives sufficient education that they need in Benton Harbor area schools because of that expertise. And so I just want to make sure that that was something that was reflected for you as well, because that's not a disadvantage, that's an advantage. So we thank you. Okay, so what we have in attachment with this is the actual resolution, which the Vice President has said we don't need to read.
No, you don't need to read it, but I think we can read it.
So everyone, I'll just give you a quick second to peruse over it.
You can read, Madam President.
Okay, so this is staff report D1. Negotiations approving the amendment of the contract of employment for Dr. Burnick as interim superintendent, Benton Harbor Area Schools, Berrien County. A special meeting of the Board of Education of the district. The board was held in Benton Harbor High School Library within the boundaries of the district on the 26th day of June, 2025 we'll have to adjust that with our start time because it was different than 6:30. So we'll amend that to the actual time we started. We would notate the time that we call the meeting to order. The following preamble and resolutions will plug those people in. Whereas the Board of Education of Benton Harbor Area Schools has previously appointed Dr. Christopher Burnick on June 14th, 2025 to serve as interim superintendent of schools pending contract negotiations. And whereas the board and Dr. Burnick have negotiated an amendment to the existing contract of employment to reflect the terms and conditions of his continued service as interim superintendent. And whereas the board has reviewed and considered the terms of the proposed contract of employment amendment, now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education of Benton Harbor Area Schools hereby approves the contract of employment amendment between the board and Dr. Burnick for his service as interim superintendent effective July 1st, 2025. And be it further resolved that the board president and or the board secretary are hereby authorized and directed to execute the contract of employment amendment on behalf of the board, adopted the 26th day of June, 2025 by the Board of Education of Benton Harbor Area Schools. At this time, I'll ask, is there a motion to approve staff report B1?
I so move.
Is there a second or support?
Support.
The motion has been made by Secretary Triplett and supported by Trustee Rockett Martin. I'll ask if there's any additional questions, comments.
I'm just grateful, Madam President, and thankful to, just like the last transition, it was a smooth transition. It was seamless. And the same thing is happening tonight. I have all the confidence in the world that Dr. Burnick will help us in this transition. I think that him being a director and having set up under our previous superintendent and having knowledge of things from that perspective and being a part of that leadership team, I think it'll be a good piece to move forward. So I appreciate it. I don't take it lightly myself of you stepping in to do that.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Dr. Buck down there.
Are you saying I'm growing superintendent, sir? That is a great compliment.
It is definitely. It's definitely. I'm giving deference and information to Burr Oak community who's online watching their new superintendent.
All right. Any other comments from the board? And also one thing that I shared with Secretary Triplett is when I called Dr. Burnick to give him the news, he had tuned in at the end of the meeting, but I could hear the excitement in your voice. And that was so refreshing. You do your job, you don't beg or ask for attention, you're here, you're dedicated. And so I'm grateful that you're able to assist us in this manner, but that we're also able to honor you in allowing you to see that we do see your leadership. So thank you. So if there's no other comments or questions from the board, I would ask, the motion was made by Triplett and supported by Rockett Martin. Can you please call the vote for the contract of employment for Dr. Burnick as interim superintendent?
Give me 1
The
minute.
contract of employment amendment. Staff report B1.
President Robinson,
Yes.
Vice President Bowens,
Yes.
Secretary Triplett, yes. Trustee Rockett Martin,
Yes.
Trustee Gavin,
Yes.
Trustee Doyle,
Yes.
Madam President, the motion carried unanimously.
Congratulations. Now, we normally try to be a little more respectful of people's dollar and money, but because I did not get a chance to give them the amendment in advance, I wanted to be clear everyone had read it. So I apologize that we have put all of your financial business on Front Street. You may have a few coworkers, like I said earlier, you may have a few coworkers asking you for lunch. Now that they know how long your money will be during the summer. But we are grateful for you. We appreciate it. Also, I would just ask, Dr. Buzz gave me an update today on things they've been doing. So if you could just give the board a brief update of the transitions that you all have started in making. Dr. Burnick, as you all are aware, is a director. So he's in cabinet meetings. He's aware and knowledgeable on where all departments are because he's in those meetings. But there's some other things that they've started as well.
Yes, ma'am. I'm trying to figure out where we start. We've gone over track, information. We've gone over the information on the, insurance for the basketball floor, the boiler information, summer school calendar, the CBA. There is a whole list on my, calendar, on the, wall in my office that we've gone over. And I'm leaving it there so that he can keep track of by month, you know, and even for the new administration coming in, because those are some things that are ongoing.
Yeah.
And they'll be able to come in and look and see and make their adjustments as they acclimate themselves to the district.
And then we've also, keeping in mind that with Dr. Bus exiting and, Bernick stepping in temporarily, there'll have to be transition of powers as it relates to the accounts and things of that nature, which they've been on top of as well. So I just wanted to make sure the board is aware that the council, Dr. Bus names will no longer be on accounts, our contacts, things like that. They've also initiated those processes, so that there's a smooth transition and we're able to still function during this time.
That started yesterday, ma'am.
All right, so congratulations, Dr. Bernick. I will be in touch significantly over the summer, and then you'll be in the hot seat come July 8th with us, and that's gonna be interesting. So you and I will have a one-on-one over the agenda, making sure it's prepared and things like that. I'll sit down with you and Ms. Singer. But I'm sure Dr. Buss is giving you an earful about it, so. All right, so we're gonna proceed. Next, I don't know if you all know how good I feel that is done. And I even had Dr. Bernick make sure that he's legally qualified and capable. It's no legal guideline that says that he can't do both, and he checked that, because I told him if they don't get us for not having a superintendent, they'll get us for not having a special ed director. So we did double check those things as well. So, all right, we're gonna move along to business and finance, the 2024-2025 final budget revision, staff report F1. And keeping in mind that we've gone over these things, so there may be, I do anticipate there may be a couple clarifications, but I'm hoping we've had the conversations needed. So you have the floor, Director Brock Carter.
Okay, first up is
I'm requesting access.
oh, I'm sorry.
Which one is that?
But the budget revision.
We should all have access to these reports.
Is there something wrong with it? Cause she just gave
I
me.
think it's something wrong because I don't have access either, and I'm an editor on the document.
Yeah, I emailed her to give me access, but she did say
it-
earlier she had given it to everyone.
Yeah, I thought I did. Can you check it now, please?
It's there. It's there.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you.
I apologize for that.
No
I'm
worries.
sorry. I thought I had did that earlier.
This happens on a regular basis, so I don't know what's happening with the information, but documents are sent and we have to request for access. Hopefully that will, moving forward, that will not be the place we'll be able to open them and go for it. Thank you so much,
Well noted.
Director Brock Carter.
Thank you. So first, we're gonna start with the 24-25 final budget revision. This is our final budget for the 24-25 school year. The beginning balances on the budget hearing is how those numbers came about. So if there aren't any questions, we can go ahead and go to the staff
Go to
report.
the staff report.
Oh, President Robinson.
You have the floor.
I do. Just wanna be clear. Were there any cuts, that we need to know about? Any
No.
cuts?
No,
New programs or
nope,
positions or any of that?
nope.
Okay, thank you.
And this is this year, right?
Right,
our
this is the
final
current year,
amendment.
right, and there was never a discussion for any cuts for the 24-25 school year, and there haven't been any further discussions.
Okay. For 25-26.
Yeah, this is the final 24-25.
24-25. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Staff report F1. Reason for board consideration, each June, school districts have an opportunity to update their revenue and expenditure projections for the fiscal year that ends on June 30th. Facts and analysis. The proposed year-end budget revision reflects updated revenue and expenditure estimates for the 2024-2025 fiscal year. This budget revision includes revisions to the general fund, the food service fund. I'm going to remove that 2007 capital projects fund because there are no budget revisions to that fund.
Okay.
The 2017 sinking fund and the student activities fund. The resolution for adoption of the final 2024-25 budget revision is provided on the attached general appropriations resolution. Policy reference, policies 6230 and policy 6231. Recommended action that the Board of Education approve as presented the 2024-25 fiscal year-end budget revision.
Is there a motion to approve staff report F1?
I so move.
Is there a second or support?
I support.
The motion has been made by Secretary Triplett and supported by Trustee Rocket Martin. If there's no questions or additional comments from the board, Secretary Triplett, can you please call the vote?
President Robinson,
Yes.
Vice President Bowen,
Yes.
Secretary Triplett, yes. Trustee Rocket Martin,
Yes.
Trustee Gavin,
Yes.
Trustee Doyle,
Yes.
motion carried.
All right, next up on the agenda is the 2025-2026 proposed initial budget. Rock Carter, you have the floor.
Thank you. Staff report F2. Reason for consideration. Michigan's Uniform Budgeting and Accounting Act requires the governing body of public school districts to approve the upcoming fiscal year's budget before the new fiscal year begins. Facts and analysis. Board policy number 6230 states the final adoption of the proposed annual budget shall be made by the board after the completion of the public budget hearing. The budget hearing was held earlier this evening. The proposed 2025-2026 general fund budget assumes a 392 per student increase in the state foundation allowance and a continued reduction in the district's blended student enrollment. The state legislature has not approved the 2025-2026 State School Aid Act. So the state foundation allowance and the 2025-2026 blended membership amounts are currently unknown. The resolution for adoption of the initial 2025-26 budget is provided on the attached general appropriations resolution. Policy reference, policies 6230 and 6231. Recommended action that the board approve as presented the 2025-2026 budget.
Is there a motion to approve staff report F2?
Madam President, I make a motion to approve staff report F2.
Is there a second or support?
I support.
The motion has been made by VP Bowens and supported by Secretary Triplett. Questions, comments, or concerns? Trustee Gavin.
Same question. I was actually on the wrong year. My apologies. Are there any cuts to programs or staffing in this present
No.
projected budget? Okay, thank you for that. And then thank you for noting that we still do not have a approved budget from the state yet, and so this is estimated. I'm certain that you probably required or departments within the district to submit their budget projections to you that fed into this.
Yes.
So if something changes, will they have an opportunity to make amendments as well? If we need to
Yes.
make those amendments when the state gives us their final budget?
That's correct.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you.
Question, when we were looking at, like our contract and what have you, with, different vendors and what have you in our partnership agreement. There were certain things that were there were things that were listed in our partnership agreement. And one of those things I was very concerned about was, the Threads of Hope organization and, what they bring to our students. For me, this go round, this is a non-negotiable for me. When I see our children, when I see what's happening in our community, when I see the programming, when I see all of the amazing things that have happened, even as it relates to our teachers, anybody's personal, whatever that is, I'm that can happen to our children. And so I just wanted to know, in this budget, that is still an opportunity. Is that not correct?
That's correct.
All right, thank you.
Vice President Bowens?
So I guess Secretary Triplett said that's still an opportunity. They're still a vendor. Correct.
Yes, they are still a vendor. They have submitted their proposals for the next school year. So we'll be reviewing those contracts and going forward from there.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions from the board?
I did. One more. I'm sorry, Madam
Point of
President.
clarity, I just didn't hear the last word. You said you're given the contracts and will forward them?
Excuse me?
I didn't hear.
I said they have submitted their proposals for next school year. We will have to review those and go from there.
Got you. Thank you. I just didn't hear the last word.
Okay.
I did have one more question. Are those contracts, I know we did the contract. We did the contracts. Was those contracts for 2 years? Have those contracts expired? Are they still there? Is there another year on the contract? I'm not sure. Excuse me, exactly how that worked.
We did 2-year contracts in 2023. So for 2025, those contracts ended. We'd have to start new contracts for the upcoming school year.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no other questions, Secretary Triplett, I ask that you call the vote for staff report F2 concerning the 2025-2026 proposed initial budget.
President Robinson,
No.
Vice President Bowen,
I probably confused you, but I'm just standing in my reserve as I did at the previous
Oh,
meeting. You can
okay.
proceed with your vote.
Yes.
I'm
sorry, I know
gonna
that threw everybody off.
no, I'm gonna do like President Robinson, and I'm gonna do like President Robinson. Are you sure that you are aware of what it is that we're voting on for our budget for the 2025-26, and it must be done by June the 30th? Are you sure?
I am sure. I am aware of what we're voting. I know that it is a requirement. I have faith that the majority of the Board of Education will approve this budget. However, I am voting no because I cannot stomach the negative 7.3 million balance. And so while I know that it's a requirement, I am not comfortable at this particular time with approving a budget with over projected spending.
And you have that right, Madam President. Okay, so as Secretary Triplett, a resounding yes. Trustee Rocket Martin,
So let me say this. This is the
Can't
budget.
hear.
In the mic,
So,
I'm gonna make you get a handheld.
okay, so what we're saying is that the necessary adjustments that we need to make, if we vote yes on this, we won't be able to make them later on.
Yes, we can
You
make,
can always make
we can
amendments.
always revise our budget.
In that case, I'll vote yes.
Trustee Gavin,
Yes, and thank you for this.
Trustee Doyle.
Yes.
I'm gonna go back up to the top. I just want to make sure that we got some clarification. After our budget hearing and what have you, and what was specifically said, President Robinson,
I am still a no.
Motion carried.
Thank you. And thank you to the board for having that dialogue and participating in our budget hearing. And as stated in our previous meeting, we have the right to amend our judgments, our budget. The work is not done. And so while this is where we are at this particular time, this is not where we will be at the end of the year. All right, so we're gonna move right along to the food service renewal contract, staff report F3. And I just wanted clarification because I think this was on the agenda before. But it may have been in a meeting that I missed. Or am I mistaken? Haven't you all reviewed the contract before? You've discussed it before?
Yes, we have to submit it to MDE before we
Before
bring
we
it to the
certify
board.
it.
So
Okay.
we had put it on there expecting to get it back, but we didn't, so we had to take it back off until we got it back.
So did it ever come before the table?
No.
Okay, okay. All right, go ahead.
Staff report F3, reason for board consideration. The district's annual contract with TAIR Inc. expires on June 30th, 2025. Facts and analysis. To comply with the Michigan Department of Education requirements, school district with food service management company agreements are required to submit this proposed contract renewal forms to MDE for review and approval before the renewal contract can be signed for by the district. MDE received the district's request for renewing the food service management company contract with TAIR Inc. for 2025-2026 school year and has approved the following. The current management fee of 9.2 cents per meal will increase by 3.1% to a new management fee of 9.49 cents per meal. The current administrative fee of $2,400 per month will increase by 3.1% to the new administrative fee of $2,474.40 per month. There is no advance payments. There are no guarantees for the 2025-26 school year. No client investment planned for the 2025-2026 school year. Policy reference 8500 food service. Strategic plan reference facilities and operations. Benton Harbor area schools will develop, implement, and evaluate a fiscally responsible plan that will ensure physical and psychological safety. Recommended action that the Board of Education votes to approve a one-year renewal of the TAIR Inc. food service contract from July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026 as presented.
Is there a motion to approve staff report F3?
I make a motion to approve staff report F3.
Is there a second or support?
Support.
The motion has been made by trustee Rocket Martin and supported by Vice President Bowens. Questions, comments, or concerns? I do have a quick question. I just want clarity. What does it mean there are no guarantees for the 2025-2026 school year? What does that reference?
We didn't promise them anything to renew the contract.
Gotcha. Okay. And then this is just a quick question, and I'm pretty sure if I had
My computer went out.
it's standard that it's in here in contracts, but I'm wondering, is there a stipulation that, and not to say that this is something that we want to do, but is there a stipulation that allows us to end the contract early, or are there terms surrounding ending the contract?
I'm not sure.
There are terms surrounding the contract early.
Okay,
There's a time period we have to give them.
okay.
What is?
I didn't go over the original again. Okay. Those are my questions. You had a comment?
Typically 90 days. Trustee Gavin had a question.
Okay. Trustee Gavin?
Thank you. That was, I think that was a really good question. So you're saying 90 days advance notice, or like what are the terms of that?
I have to look at the contract, but typically what we do is we put a disclaimer in, we have to give the 90-day notice that we do not plan to renew and then start that process.
That's not planning to renew. My question is, so a couple things, just in case you know, the state decides not to fund.
Or the new
lunches,
superintendent decides to go with the
you
different,
decide to go to a
Yeah.
different company. What are the terms of the contract in that regard?
So the new superintendent will have the opportunity to choose a new, provider to his or her liking. Typically, on our, contracts, it's a 90-day notice. But before they give that notice, they need to make sure they have the MDE approval. As long as they have all their approvals, a 90-day notice.
so and I'm sorry to jump in, is it 90 days prior to not renewing for another year? Or can we give them 90-day notice within this year?
Now I gotta look at the part within the year, but there is a clause that, there is a get out clause within the
Okay.
year as well. I always make sure we have a get out clause because if,
Sorry.
no, I'm sorry, I'll just say if the district is not pleased, my job is to make sure that we can always get out if the board so chooses.
I think it's important for us to know what that is at this time, when we're making a vote. Yeah, is it possible to, is that a difficult thing to?
The original contract is here. We can probably find it. Okay, hold on. I had her attach the original contract.
While we're looking for that,
Oh, okay, so
Okay.
it is here on page 23 of the original contract. Under terms and termination. It says, under item B, the SFA, the SFA or the FSMC may terminate the contract with or without cause by giving 60 days written notice.
is that with no penalty?
Neither the FSMC nor the SFA shall be responsible for any losses resulting if the fulfillment of the terms of the contract shall be delayed or prevented by wars, acts of public enemy strike. That's something totally different. It does not know the penalty. It just says that we can terminate the contract with or without cause by giving a 60-day written notice.
Okay, thank you.
It's within the original contract from last year. It's on page 23.
Okay, so I know we don't have an attorney present and we're just going based off what we see here. So what it sounds like is we have 60 days if we decide to go with another contractor, vendor. We just need to let them know within 60 days that the contract will end and they will continue the work for 60 days while we move into a transition. Does that sound right?
That's my interpretation. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and if we don't have a vendor that is gonna impact summer lunches, will that have an impact on summer lunches and things of that nature?
That is correct.
Okay, so I'm gonna say this, requesting surveys is not a new request for me. I've been asking for student feedback from the beginning. Even when I approved this company, even though I was looking at a different one, I think it's super important that the client, which is the student is our client, their feedback be incorporated in our decision. It's very important to me. This is nothing against any particular person. This is just in terms of my boundaries of what I expect when I'm making a decision. And I've been talking to the students and their feedback has been concerning. Sometimes they're excited when they have those opportunities, when they can help cook. That's a really good feature. But on a day-to-day, there are some concerns. And so I am going to approve because I don't want to delay services for the summer lunches. And we have an opportunity to revisit this. But what I will say is that I think it's super important to leverage our hospitality management class. We have students who are studying this thing to leverage surveys, to do things to provide their input and to provide their input when we have to vote on contract renewals. Any contract renewal where there's a service that has been given over a certain amount of time, I think it's important for us to have the feedback from the people who have been serviced. Because it's last minute and we've been doing so much, I'm gonna go ahead and approve it. But in the future, I think it's super important to include surveys from the students, maybe even have a student advisory committee that deals with food service, so that they can have some leadership, and input into this, decision.
And we did request that Taylor do surveys with the students. We haven't received the data back, but I know that, the director of food service and her staff conducted surveys during the lunch hour, with the students. So hopefully we can request that data and share it with you all.
Yeah, so what I would say is, and I appreciate that, but what I would say is, anybody who is looking to get contracts from us, they want us to invest in them. If we requested surveys, they need to be providing those surveys to us, and we need to have those surveys in front of us before we make the decision. So I think that if we have those type of standards on the front end, then the decision will be a lot easier for everybody on the back end.
All right, Secretary Triplett.
Not in defense of anybody or anything, to come before us in this late hour, with this contract available, letting us know that if there were any concerns, we should have done this 90 days out or 30 days out. We should have had this discussion 90 or 30 days out. I appreciate the fact, like you said, just for us having an understanding of the contract that we're signing and we're going into. I also think that we should take into consideration too and survey our employees from Benton Harbor who work under these new vendors that come in, because the vendors come and the vendors leave and our people are here. And so we have Miss Marty Moss, those people have been in there forever. Miss Cummings, 50 years in the district. What do these people, not just the kids, what do they think about the service and what have you? Because they're the ones that's doing it. So I would like for that to be a part of it as well, where we can get some information and data from them. But I think we do owe them a conversation if we're going to vote for this contract. We have concerns. One of our students expressed something about the food and they don't eat it. And it's a little bitty fella. Now, you also have to take into consideration that our kids like junk food. And so, there are some guidelines as well that we're governed by the state and by federal guidelines in order for us to be in the program. There are some things that they are required to do and that they have to eat and that they can only serve. I've seen kids come out of that, behind that counter, not here at Benton Harbor, and throw away just loads and loads of fruit and vegetables and things because they just don't eat them. So it's a lot to take into consideration, but I do understand what you're saying because I have heard some things from elementary and high school.
Vice President Bowens.
Madam President, we have a young gentleman in the audience. And I'm going to ask, can you summon him for his opinion?
Okay, are there any objections from the board from giving the student an opportunity to speak?
No, ma'am.
Okay, Tiger Robinson. So mommy needs you to come to the mic. If someone could assist him. And so, I told you that this meeting is really important because we decide what happens within the school, right? So they want, if you could come so we can see you because you're too little for the podium. Okay, can we make is his mic on? Okay, so I need you to begin by telling everyone your full name.
Tiger Robinson.
What's your middle name? And speak a little louder.
My name is Tiger Ollie Robinson.
Okay, and so the question that we have for you, we want you to be honest with us and tell us, get comfortable now, you're okay, it's just us. You're talking to mommy. Tell me and everyone here, how do you feel about the food in your school? Do you like the lunches? You can be honest.
Some of them,
You like some of them? Okay, what do you like about it and what don't you like about it? Oh, how old are you?
7.
Okay. And what do you like about the lunches and what don't you like?
Mostly they have like,
Put the mic in your mouth a little closer.
Here. Go ahead.
they usually put like lasagna and stuff, and I don't like that stuff. And then sometimes they put other stuff.
Other stuff like what? You gotta give them the details that you gave me. So you don't like the lasagna.
Ah,
What else don't you like?
the beans.
The beans. Okay. And what do you like?
They had like the chicken nugget,
You like the chicken? Okay. Anything else?
cheese sticks.
You like the cheese sticks?
Yeah, they had like there was like bread with cheese inside it.
Okay, so you like the quick, fun kid food things, like most kids. Okay, anything else you want to share with us about the food? Because we're getting ready to decide if we still keep that same lunch. What are your thoughts on that? Should we approve this contract to keep the same lunch or should we get another person to cook? You don't know? Okay, all right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Good job. You said you can put that on here, better person. So just to clarify, he actually vented to me about the food. My mom did. She works at the school. She did let me know that he had not been eating. He's a finicky eater, period. So we know there's just a difference in what our students are used to. And so majority of the time he won't eat. And so she did have a conversation with the school, of course, about the additional meals that are available when you have finicky eaters. But he let me have it the other day and let me know that he doesn't like, they served him lasagna and peas. And he doesn't like lasagna. Garfield might like lasagna. But he doesn't. So there are some, I think it's just a difference in what our kids are used to
Yeah.
culturally. And so I do think getting that feedback from the students directly is extremely important. So if there's no other comments, and thank you, Vice President Lawrence, for giving him an opportunity to speak. That's his first time speaking publicly in front of people. So
Right back to that phone.
he ain't heard nothing else since he said he spoke.
Doyle.
So at this, Trustee Doyle.
Just real quick, my daughter doesn't eat the lunches either. I usually have to bring her something or she hungry through the whole day.
Okay. And I know Trustee Gavin has expressed, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I know we had just a couple times, but I guess my question is this. If we didn't approve this, right? What options does the district have food wise?
What'll happen is, right now, they'll continue until we can get another food service company in. So it's not optional that we not have a food service.
Oh, so they would just kind of stay on until we get someone else?
So this contract will roll over by law.
So
It'll roll over for a year, regardless.
Year by year.
So if we voted no, they would still get the contract?
So
I'm
it won't roll
confused.
over. It doesn't roll over?
No,
Oh,
we
sorry.
don't approve it. It will end Monday.
Oh, okay. I'm
Its
sorry.
services will end.
I'll serve,
I'm sorry for the misinformation. I thought it rolled over.
and then we would be in some type of violation, right? Because we have to provide.
Right.
food.
Yeah, we've already put out our summer schedule. We've already, our different sites, we've already submitted that to the state, that those are gonna be our sites for the summer. So we will be in violation of all of those things that we've already committed to.
Plus the employees wouldn't have a job, right?
That's correct.
Can we offer an amendment that this company provide their survey results? By a certain
I don't
date?
know if we can amend the contract renewal is kind of set by the state. It doesn't really give us to add any clauses or anything like that, but I can follow up with the food service director. She's been very good about, addressing any of our concerns, so.
Thank you, and thank you for your indulgence, President Robinson.
All right, Secretary Triplett, please call the vote for staff report F3.
President Robinson,
Yes.
Vice President Bowen.
Yes.
Secretary Triplett, yes. Trustee Rocket Martin. Yes. Trustee Gavin,
Yes.
Trustee Doyle,
Yes.
motion carried.
All right, do we need a quick 3 to 5 minute break or do we want to push
It's
forward?
a storm on its way. I just got the notification. We need to.
Okay, let's keep going. Up next, we have staff report F4, workers' compensation renewal.
Just a little, before I get to the staff report, I just wanted to talk about the new workman's comp company is actually Middle Cities, the company that we already use for our liability and our student safety insurance. And this new contract is going to save us about $3,000 annually because we were in a program with Liberty Mutual. It was kind of like the only thing that we could get into last year after we had lost our coverage. So we were lucky to get back into Middle Cities, which is our company that we already use for liability. So I am happy to be able to save the district some money with this new contract and kind of get better coverage for our workman's comp. So that's just a little background on why this is even a staff report, because when we switch workman's comp company, we have to have a resolution from the board to submit in order for us to change companies. So staff report F4.
Madam-
Were you gonna say you don't need her to read it?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
We have to read it for the public who does not have it visually right here, have not received it in an email, and is not sitting at this table. So we have to read that for our people. Let us be transparent. I know we're exhausted in this heat, but let us continue to be transparent to our constituents. And I know that means a lot to our vice president. That's something that I have followed. I have followed him in that manner. And so I want us to continue to stay on that vein. I appreciate you, sir.
Madam President, I don't know if the secretary is hearing things, or I know we're getting up there in age, but I never said anything about reading this. Oh.
Director Brockhart, if you could please, and for the public, we are hot. This is our second meeting. And we are tired, so forgive us, we're a little bit sillier than normal today. We've been moving from one end of this table to another. This is not normally how we would be operating. Dr. Buss has been laughing for the last 3 minutes, so just bear with us, we're almost done. Director Brockhart, you can present staff report F4.
Benton Harbor Area Schools resolution for joining the Middle Cities Workers' Compensation Group. Benton Harbor Area Schools, Berrien County, Michigan, is presented as the district. A special meeting of the Board of Education of the district was held in the Benton Harbor High School Library within the boundaries of the district on June 26, 2025. The following preamble and resolutions were moved by, and those will be filled in after the vote. Whereas the district wishes to acquire workers' compensation coverage that provides protection for employees, is cost competitive, and provides loss control and risk management services. The Middle Cities Education Association has developed a cooperative purchasing program to provide first dollar workers' compensation coverage that is cost competitive and provides risk management, loss control, and administrative services. The creation of the intergovernmental contract for the mutual benefit and protection of its members is permitted by Act 35 of the Public Acts of 1951, specifically MCL 124.2. The following documents regarding the formation of the Middle Cities Workers' Compensation Group and the Middle Cities Workers' Compensation Group Trust are appended to this resolution and have reviewed by the Board of Education. Middle Cities Workers' Compensation Group Intergovernmental Contract, Middle Cities Workers' Compensation Group Declaration of Trust, Middle Cities Workers' Compensation Group Bylaws, and Middle Cities Workers' Compensation Group Operating Policies. By joining the Middle Cities Compensation Group, the district will acquire workers' compensation coverage, loss control, and risk management services, and the opportunity to participate in the placement of coverage and structure of workers' compensation coverage and services. Now, therefore, it is resolved that the district shall participate in the Middle Cities Workers' Compensation Group Trust for a minimum of 2 physical years of the trust, commencing at 12:01 a.m. on July 1st, 2025. The district's participation in the group shall continue unless the board moves to terminate its membership.
Roger Ronaldo Triplett, the Secretary of the Board.
The Secretary of the Board, Mr. Triplett, is authorized to execute on behalf of this district the intergovernmental contract, the declaration of trust, and any amendments to these documents.
Or would that be the superintendent of schools, Dr. Bus? Whose name should be there? Who are we authorizing? It says a certain individual is authorized to execute on behalf of this district the intergovernmental contract, the declaration of trust, and any amendments to these.
that's-
Is that the superintendent?
Yes, ma'am.
Secretary Triplett signs, but so we'll just say the superintendent
Okay.
of schools is authorized to execute on behalf of the district the intergovernmental contract, the declaration of trust, and any amendments to these documents. Is there a motion to approve staff report F4?
Madam President, I make,
The motion has been made by Secretary Triplett, Vice President Bowens. Would you like to be the support? Are you the support, Bowen?
yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Questions, comments, concerns from the board?
Madam
Yeah.
President,
You have the floor.
I had a question. I know we don't get to hear often from our board treasurer. Can you hear me? I know we don't get to hear often from our board treasurer. They discussed in their committee. But have you heard from your treasurer on his recommendations on this or his opinion on this?
No, I did not. Are you asking me or the committee?
The committee,
The McKitty, the committee, it's time to go home. I'm wore out to a frazzle. Did the committee get a chance to discuss this?
No, we didn't discuss this.
No, we didn't.
we would-
I didn't
Okay.
receive this till after we had our committee meeting.
Okay. What are your recommendations are in support of this strongly?
Strongly in support of this with us trying to cut costs, you know, the $3,000 annual savings and the extended coverage from a well-known company that's used throughout the state.
The coverage is more comprehensive.
Okay.
I can say, with Middle City, that they are really powerful. Like seriously, they are very, very powerful in representing, employees and workman comp and all those different types of things. And like you said, we had to jump into Liberty because we couldn't get into anything, and they finally allowed us to come back into the fold. So I would ask for all of us to support this initiative. It's a blessing to be able to get back when we had lost, and they let us come back in, and they have a lot of power and a lot of respect.
And this is one of the companies that they wouldn't let us in this time last year. So they offering to let us in this time, I think we need to take advantage of this opportunity.
Our treasurer has also, he tunes in every meeting. He has sent communication to me that he does support this, for the record.
Thank you.
All right.
Can you vote offline?
He can't vote, but he did send his support.
Okay.
Okay.
I thought the policy had changed. Thank you, Madam President, for that clarification.
Secretary Triplett, can you please call the vote?
And it is Secretary Triplett who has to sign this documentation.
Yes.
So I would like to respect on my name from your Vice President I know he's a millennial and they really don't expect their life
Point
expectancy.
of
is
order, Madam
36
President.
is 36 years old. Okay, President Robinson,
Yes.
Vice President Bowen,
Yes.
Secretary Triplett, yes. Trustee Rocket Martin, Trustee Gavin,
Yes.
Trustee Doyle.
Yes.
Madam President, with the support of two Finance Committee members here, the motion carries.
Thank you. You can proceed with your monthly reports. And just a quick clarification, I know we normally, why do we need to do these today?
Do what today?
The monthly reports?
Oh,
We normally do them at the start.
yeah, well, this, with June being almost up.
Just want to
we
get done.
do May and
No,
June
we can
next month.
proceed. I just didn't know if it was a reason why it was today versus earlier or later, because we normally do them at.
But we didn't have, our second meeting this month.
You're right. Okay. Thank you. Quick clarification. You have the floor.
Thank you. This is our May 2025 monthly report. Just want to go over the financial summary of just, mainly all the information is available for you all to review. I just always would like to review our large payments, anything that's over the superintendent's threshold, I like to review with you all. And that for the month of May, we had First Student, Centric, Connects LLC, that is our licensing for our new camera system. TARE, Field Turf USA is our track. Andy Egan, Mesa, and Easy Method Inc. is our driver's ed company.
What do we pay out to Mesa for?
Excuse me?
What do we pay out to Mesa for?
That is our teachers' health insurance.
Okay.
I see here where it says sinking fund expenses have exceeded revenue at the end of May.
That's correct?
Can you give some clarification on that?
Yes. I want to get down to the right slide that shows the details. Just a second. On page 27 of the slide of the PDF, the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in the fund balances. The first two columns are general fund budget and actual as of May 2025. And we also reviewed those in our budget hearing slides. The next two columns is the sinking fund. So actual revenue is $2,442,606. Our expenses year to date as of May 31st are $3,743,446. So our expenses have exceeded our revenue for the sinking fund of 1.3 million. And this, as you can see from the budget in the previous column, we had budgeted to go into the sinking fund for this year. I mean, go into the sinking fund balance for 24-25.
All right, Vice President Bowens.
Yes, thank you, Director Brock. I got a question for you. On the AP check register, I'm getting up there in age, so can you refresh my memory on reclaiming, equipping, and directing youth? What agency is that?
That's ready, our Taekwondo program.
Okay. Also, community and schools, can you re-advise me how long that program is?
We are set up for 3 years.
Mm.
We're ending our first year and going into our second year.
I would love, Trustee Gavin talks about surveys. I would love to see the survey from the staff and the schools. How effective is community in schools, what is the return of investment on that? That's it. Thank you.
Oh, okay, if there's no other question,
Oh.
trustee Gavin?
Thank you. I have to get back up. I was looking at what you referred us
can't hear you.
to. Going back to the page I was on. Oh, where is it? My question is about the 21st Century AI program. I know that we approved that contract. Where are we in terms of pay in that process? Are they starting to get payments? Have we rolled that out?
Yeah, we paid that in full upfront.
Oh, okay. And so we rolled out the program.
Yes, Ms. Cups can probably answer that better because it's a curriculum, that is rolled out at the different buildings.
Dr. Bus can answer, he's still our superintendent.
Right. They started training actually last week. The program has the program has been implemented. The teachers have started receiving training as of last week. It was a very robust training. It was over at the Marriott. So they are getting their training and being prepared for the upcoming school year.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that.
It was a lot of money.
My other question is, I heard a lot about adult ed as an opportunity for us to not only expand our services, but also to possibly bring in dollars. And I see that and I've said this before, we paid out about what, 97,000 to Connexus. Do you see that at like if that was something that we brought in-house, do you see that as an opportunity for us to increase our revenues?
I will have to do a more in-depth analysis to be able to say yes or no to that. I'm not saying it's not possible. I definitely think it's possible. But if we have the space, if we have the staffing to support it, but I can't really say 100% for sure at this point whether or not it'll be valuable for us to take it on.
Okay, thank you. And so, but currently they're able to kind of use the success from the work that they're doing with us to fundraise for themselves as well.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, they definitely are. Okay, thank you. That's it. That's all that I have. Thank you so much.
Are there any other questions or concern on the monthly report?
One question, kind of piggyback off what she was saying. Is that something that Berrien County does? Are the other schools in Berrien County using Connexus also? You don't know?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Okay. Do we offer business management? Do you know if we offer that course or are we contracting that out to Connexus as well?
We don't contract out business services to Connexus. I know that, or a business education class. And again, I don't want to misspeak because that's more of an expertise for Ms. Cupsh. So I'm really not sure if we offer that at our school or if we are, sending kids to other districts for that particular program.
So
AMG.
I'll piggyback on, well, it's part of the, it's being integrated as part of the MMC. So it starts in the 8th grade through 12. And right now we have the ability to get different entities to come in like on a credit union or other financial institutions to come in. But it is in its beginning phases, but it's being integrated into the Michigan Merit curriculum. So it's going to be a mandatory subject.
It's going to be a mandatory subject with us. Do we offer JMG right now?
We do.
Yes,
And that's through Connexus?
yes,
That's the career readiness component?
that's correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
James, I thought it was JAG. Might be
Yeah, but personal finance, what Dr. Butts is in reference to, personal finance is going to be mandatory in the future.
Thank you.
Okay, you can go ahead and proceed with staff report F5.
Staff report F5, monthly financial reports. Reason for board consideration, a set of financial reports is provided to the Board of Education each month. Facts and analysis. This evening it is recommended that the May 2025 payments be approved for all district funds. Policy reference 6470, payment of claims. Strategic plan goal reference, facilities operations. Benton Harbor area schools will develop, implement, and evaluate a fiscally responsible plan that will ensure physical and psychological safety. Recommended action that the Board of Education approve the May 1st through May 31st payments for the following funds. General Fund, $1,420,494.98. Food Service Fund, $250,716.32. Sinking Fund, $216,625.27. Student Activity Fund, $179.26, for a total of $1,888,015.83.
Okay, is there a motion to approve staff report F5?
Madam President, I make a motion to approve staff report F5.
Is there a second or support? The motion has been made by Vice President Bowens and supported by Secretary Triplett. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Before the board comments, I just want to thank you all for the opportunity to be able to provide you with this information and be in charge for the finances for the Benton Harbor Area School District. It was a dream of mine to do this job, so I really appreciate it. This is my first time doing a budget revision, initial budget, so I was very nervous, but thank you all so much because it was not bad at all. Thank you.
It's not.
You kind of scared me for a moment.
You have to remember that you are very qualified to do the work that you do. And so I've shared with Secretary Triplett that you have never been a person that wants to be in the forefront or on the mic and center. And so you've made tremendous growth in your comfort as a director of finance. You run the money. So you have no reason to be nervous. You do a great job. We trust your judgment and your feedback. Doesn't mean we're gonna always vote yes on everything you bring. But we do trust your judgment. So we appreciate you significantly. Okay, did you have an update or something?
Yes, ma'am. I did get an update from Director Cups. We have a business path approved for next year. Personal finance is mandatory and it is offered in econ.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay.
So we can transition our.
All right, if there's no questions regarding Secretary Triplett.
Yeah, I do want to say to Director Brock Carter too, I think in my meeting today, we did have a conversation. And I did ask her this question, can you do it or not? And that's that's the bottom line. You know, to whom much is given, much is required. You stepped in a time, you know, in your role in that office. And we talked about how when that decision was made where the CFO decided to go separate from the district. And I remember our conversation where you were very supportive of our CFO. And you expressed and you explained that you were learning a lot from her. So it was never a discussion where you was like, yeah, let her go and for me to come into this role. And then the areas that you had not yet been introduced to and the areas that you were not familiar to, you rigorously got into those classes and got into those spaces and places to improve and be able to present to us and be able to be what is, what's necessary to sit in that seat. So continue to strive forward. Like Mrs. Our president said, we're not going to always agree. We don't have to agree. When we ask you a question, this is not an attack on you personally. It is our responsibility to have clarity. And so I left out today with a little bit more clarity. So we appreciate you. I think the heat, the president think that she's getting ready to have an asthma attack with that large breath. But again, you did a great job and thank you so very, very much. These millennials, I am praying.
The funny thing is, when you were talking, I was sitting here visualizing myself walking out the door, but you was dragging me back in here.
Right on back up in here. You say what you got to say real nice. But yeah, you've done a great job and we appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, Secretary Triplett, can you please call the vote for staff report F5?
I want you all depend on the secretary a lot to do that. You need me to call your vote now. President Robinson,
Yes.
Vice President Bowen.
Yes.
Secretary Triplett, yes. Trustee Rocket Martin.
Yes.
Trustee Gavin,
Yes.
Trustee Doyle,
Yes.
motion carried.
Okay, so we should be at open public comment, but as we were sitting here, I broke a board norm and had a side conversation with Secretary Triplett because I realized that it's June 26, 2025, and this Board of Education previously took a vote to do an evaluation. And I honestly, I asked him, we were supposed to do it today? Or was it supposed to be, we did not do that on the agenda or in the month as indicated. We're about 4 days away from the end of the superintendent's contract. And so I'm wondering at this time, if the board has comfort in utilizing the exemption that we have to utilize the superintendent's resignation as an extenuating circumstance, which would allow the previous evaluation standard to be used for this year, being that we're 4 days away from the 30th. I just we need to have that conversation because we technically took the vote to do it.
Madam President, for me, myself, I think that we are moving in a different direction. We have loads and loads of things to do. And getting our district prepared for a new superintendent to come in. Dr. Butt has been hired to lead at another district. For me, the timing and what have you, I can support I can support us saying that we'll take the last evaluation and move forward in peace. So that's the way I feel that we should do, because we have a lot to have done to get done. It is a lesson for this Board of Education. It is our responsibility to do our due diligence. And I think the season of, us having to eat stuff, getting contracts in the 11th hour, all of these different types, it's some things that we have to do better ourselves. So I'm willing at this particular time, although I supported the evaluation, I felt that it was a necessary piece. In order for us to be able to assist him in moving forward. But at this particular time, I would have to change where I am, and I do support us. I don't know what would have to happen for us to put a motion on the floor or more discussion from the rest of my colleagues.
President Robinson.
Gavin?
So I think it needs to be on the agenda first.
Yeah, we will have to amend
We're
it.
discussing it, and it's not.
We can amend the agenda. I'll take a motion to amend the agenda to regarding the superintendent evaluation. To have that conversation or to allow for a vote for superintendent evaluation. Is there a motion on the floor? Triplett, did you want to put the motion on the floor to amend? Okay. Is there okay, the motion has been made by Secretary Triplett and supported by Rocket Martin. Questions, comments, concerns, Gavin?
So I guess for me, I'm wondering, is that the only option to take the previous evaluation? Because I can't support that. I cannot support the previous evaluation when new information has developed from then to now. I feel like there's a lack of integrity in that vote. Now, if there is a vote, if there is some other legal way to excuse his evaluation without accepting that, then I'm open to that. I'm open to moving forward, as long as it doesn't bite us later. But yeah, that's my concern. It's not the same. And it's important for us to actually find out. I can't say it's not the same because we haven't done the evaluation. But what I can say is that things have happened, right? And so it's important for us to be clear when we vote. But yeah, is there another
So,
option?
yep, I
other
can
than-
read the language. This is from Brad Bazanick. This was back in June before we took the vote. Ms. Robinson, thank you for contacting MASB. The evaluation law doesn't include a clear exception from the annual evaluation requirement for a superintendent who is leaving the school district.
For President Robinson,
Yes.
I hear kind of slow because I'm a visual learner. So if you read it fast like that, I don't.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you for contacting MASB. The evaluation law doesn't include a clear exception from the annual evaluation requirement for a superintendent who is leaving a school district. However, the new evaluation law includes an exception based on extenuating circumstances. The evaluation law provides that a school administrator must not be assigned an evaluation rating and must be designated as unevaluated for a year if there are extenuating circumstances in the school administrator and the school district agreed to designate the school administrator as unevaluated because of the extenuating circumstances. So that is the second option.
Okay.
He could be designated as unevaluated. The law doesn't define the phrase, and examples of what could constitute extenuating circumstances are not provided. So deference will likely be given to school districts in establishing what type of local situations constitute extenuating circumstances. Consequently, a school board and a superintendent who has resigned could arguably decide to forego an annual evaluation for this school year due to the superintendent's resignation constituting extenuating circumstances. I hope this is helpful. So we could take the vote that he would be unevaluated due to extenuating circumstances.
I would respect to hear from my other colleagues if they disagree, but I'm open to that option. I think there's integrity in that. It gives Dr. Buss an opportunity to move forward, and it gives us an opportunity to move forward.
I'm perfectly fine with him being unevaluated due to extenuating circumstances. You?
Yes, Madam President.
Okay. Did we ever get an amendment to the agenda? We did that already, right? Okay.
Did we vote?
We amended the agenda, but we didn't vote on the actual thing. So Secretary Trooper, at this time I'll ask. Oh, this is the amendment of the agenda.
Yeah.
We already amended the agenda. Okay, so Secretary Triplett, I'll ask at this time, because we've amended the agenda. You've called the vote for the amendment of the agenda. So at this time, I would ask, is there a motion to forego an annual evaluation for this school year due to the superintendent's resignation constituting extenuating circumstances? Is that your motion?
President Robinson?
Yes.
I make a motion that we forego the evaluation of the superintendent due to extenuating circumstances.
Is there a second or support? The motion was made by trustee Gavin and supported by trustee Rocket Martin. Any other questions, comments, or concerns? Trustee Doyle?
And this will deem him
Unevaluated
okay,
due to extenuating circumstances.
okay.
Okay. Secretary Triplett, can you please call the vote?
President Robinson,
Yes.
Vice President Bowens,
You speak your truth, sir.
I am going to abstain due to how do I say it? Open, unresolved situations.
Understood. Go ahead, Secretary Triplett.
What are we doing? What are we doing?
Taking a vote. He abstained.
Okay, and Madam President, you said
I said yes.
he's abstaining. Secretary Triplett, yes. Trustee Rocket Martin. Trustee Gavin,
Yes.
Trustee Doyle,
Yes.
motion carried.
All right, so next up, we have open public comment. There's no one here that I believe wants to make a comment. Dr. Butts, superintendent announcements and comments for the last time as the superintendent of schools for Benton Harbor Area Schools.
For the superintendent of schools of Benton Harbor Area Schools, I want to thank you all for giving me my first chance of being superintendent. I want to thank the students for allowing me to usher them through the years that I've been here. We've been able to create some very unique and great opportunities for them. For the staff, I thank them for their support. And we've been able to do some great things for the staff, increase their pay, make better working environments for them. Thankful to the team that has helped me get here with all their help, the new cabinet, a new administrative assistant, and thank you all for the votes and trusting me to get us to this point in our juncture. I know, as I came in and said, there was a reason and a season for me to be here. My season is up, and I wish you nothing but the best in moving forward.
Thank you. Up next, we have board member announcements and comments. We'll go with Trustee Doyle.
Can you please come back?
Trustee Rocket Martin.
Thank you, Dr. Butts, for your service. And then as we look at the food service contract, I would like for us to also look at something beyond the taste of food, because there's a state that comes in, the state comes in and audit. We've got to have people that can pass those audits, or we'll end up paying back money. And don't say it doesn't happen, because I have been on in a meeting where we had to pay back, okay? And that was like thousands of dollars. So you gotta have really competent folks in there. I said, also, we have to remember that, and I am so for the surveys to see how the food tastes for the teachers, the staff, the kids, everybody. I think we all can do a survey for food service. That's good. And I think I just kind of want to remember that, you know, you've been eating in restaurants, and sometimes you go to that restaurant and the food is very good, but then they switch cooks. You go to that restaurant, the food doesn't taste so good. So what I'm saying too is we have good cooks in Benton Harbor, okay? So just keep that in mind. Taylor's not cooking that food. But anyway, we've got good cooks. I will take it home and eat it. But anyway, Dr. Butts, I do wish you well. And I thank the board for their presence and for what they do also. And I especially thank the board tonight because I wanted to go someplace, but I'm here. So I thank you for keeping me here. I think that's sarcastic. Okay. Okay, and to Mrs. Brock Carter, what can we say? She is a wonderful, you know, when I think of you, I think of Scrooge, not in a bad way, but Scrooge did not give up money.
Not
easy.
1 cent.
Yes, and guess what? He died rich. But I appreciate the oversight that you do for us so that we will be, I feel comfortable with you in that seat. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Gavin.
Thank you, President Robinson. I'm looking at our table here and it says that MDE recommends that at 5%, state revenue remains in our net assets at the end of the year. And I've done some research, been looking up some things, and it's, you know, there's a recommendation that Michigan schools be at least 20%. And our director of finance said that we are at 60%. And so I think it's important for us to remember that. we are in good standing. We are in good standing, and we're in good standing investing in our staff. And a distinction that I've noticed is that when corporations come into our communities and they ask for tax breaks and they ask to not have to pay a dime, they say that they are creating jobs. They say that they are investing in our community. But when it's time to invest in kids and it's time for us to invest in our staff, we look at it as we can't afford it, we're taking, but we're actually creating jobs, we're investing in our community, and we're giving back to our community. Now, it is our responsibility to make sure that the people that we hire do what's best for kids. That's our responsibility, to make sure that if they're in that job, that we are maximizing that resource. And I believe that we, with the right leadership, we can do that. And I also believe that with X amount of millions of dollars, we need to be making sure that that money is going back into the classroom as often as possible. And so I'm really excited about the trajectory of where we're going. And I must say this, they said I could say it, so I'm gonna say it. When I listened to Dr. Griffin, there was something about her that led me to feel like we can be the very best. I started feeling like, man, I need to go home and clean up, I need to do better. I need to be better. I need to step up. And I believe that if we keep that mindset, we can do better as a district. We can be our best. We can do what's best for kids. And I want to thank you, Dr. Buzz, for standing in the gaps. I wish you well. I believe that that is a great assignment for. I'm not being sarcastic in any way. I mean this in the depth of my heart. I believe that I want you to have a great opportunity and experience where you go. And I said that I would tell you what I am grateful for. I am grateful for the website that we have now. I am grateful for that day you helped me with all those Peace Day T-shirts, when you helped carry all those T-shirts to the truck when we had Peace Day that day. And even though we didn't agree on certain things, you were respectful to me. And so I am appreciative of that, and I wish you well in your endeavors. And I thank you, Director Brock Carter, for listening even when you disagree, and for delivering this budget that we can vote on. And now we need the state to do the same.
All right, thank you. Trustee Doyle?
I don't have a whole lot to say. Really thankful we got past this budget today. But
Speak a little bit louder.
I'm thankful we got past this budget today, and I would like to thank Dr. Buzz for his efforts and hard work that he put in our districts. And I also wish you well too. Everybody deserves a great life, so I wish you that.
All right, up next we don't have Treasurer Bradley, Secretary Triplett.
Again, I would like to take this opportunity to say to the Board of Education that, in this process of identifying our next leader, the first few phases, I did not participate in any of that on purpose. And I looked and I saw what you all did. I think you all did an amazing job. Just stepping over on that side briefly to address you all, I hadn't been on the opposite side of the table in some time, and it gave me a clear look of what it is that we do. People don't understand what is required of us. People don't understand that as we go along, that we're yet learning as well. No one is perfect. But I want to say to you all, I am so glad that we are out of the storming. I'm so glad that we've gone beyond the forming. And I think that we're finally on our way to the norming. And that's where we be able to move as a Board of Education with excellence. I am grateful to Dr. Burnick for stepping in. I hope in this transitional season that we are able to identify those things that need to happen. So when whomever is selected as the superintendent, they will come in with some things, majority of the things that Dr. Bus didn't get to finish during his tenure, that they'll be able to come in and we'll have some things in place that they really, 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 really need in order to be successful. There's always room for improvement. That's for any of us. And to Dr. Butt, I put your name on the table. I did. And I trust that that was the right thing to do. And I do want to thank you. I hope some of the things that I've shared with you as you talking, somebody talking smart, but on that phone. If I didn't believe it, I wouldn't say it. You know, I always talk to you about, you know, being a young African American man and a leader is very difficult. And so for African American men, period, and especially in those roles. So it means a lot to me that you are successful. I know when you look back and reflect, everything has not been perfect, but you hopefully that you learned from us something that can carry you on to the next level. It is mandatory that you be successful. And so you don't have an option. And if anybody that could come through here, you know, with us, because you were in the tiger's den. You were in a den full of tigers. And you came out in one piece.
Right.
And and these tigers have a lot of different looks, but they have one thing in common, they're tigers. And they are never predators. They are never the prey, I mean, and they go forward all the way to the end. I think I wish you the very, very best. You're not that far up the road. I'm not coming to Burr Oak. I never had a reason to drive even in that direction other than go to the Miss Edwardsburg pageant. But if you like to have lunch now, I'll come down to South Bend. But lunch, yeah, lunch, a little bit of lunch or something. But yeah, but if there's anything ever that I can do, little brother, and that's not to diminish who you are and your role, or what have you, I'm always here. Okay, not that far away. I know your family is down in Georgia, but you're 80 miles up the road. Ben, how we gonna come? We may have given you a hard time, but if it get too tough, we will come. Even if we're talking to you. Now, wait a minute, we got to go. Get in that car. I don't know, Trenton, y'all, we got to ride down just for a minute. So we wish you the very, very best, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We'll go light them public comments up.
Okay.
Vice President Bowens?
First off, I want to apologize if I sounded like I was doing ageism in this age of discrimination. I don't want a complaint filed against me.
I'm filing a complaint. It's too late.
The second thing I would like to say, our liberty depends on the freedom of the press, and that cannot be limited without being lost. By Thomas Jefferson. Back in 2004, in May, Benton Harbor had a twister. I happened to be a student right here at the high school. The power went out. It was just an amazing week. We had a choir concert. We had a famous gospel singing coming. And it was American Idol finale. Fantasia Barrina was in it. That twister tore up the community. We were out of school for a week and we had to make it up. Tore up the community. Trees were down. Power was out. Back then we had hunts open. They were giving out free ice cream because they lost power. And it was just bad. The Small Business Association and the national people, FEMA, were giving up. It was just horrible. But that was a city in transition. And Dr. Butts, when you came here, we were in a season of transition. We had a superintendent. Some of us on the board wanted to do a superintendent search. The other boards members, we came here and it was abracadabra. We had a just a unique decision
Look at God.
and reclaiming my time. We had that unique decision. So, under your tenure, you helped get the gym floors done. You helped bring Swahili. You helped bring a curriculum that reflects the community, smaller, diverse libraries. You helped us rebrand our school district. And you were a transitional leader. Benton Harbor gave you your first chance as being a superintendent. And I believe we taught you some valuable lessons. One of the lessons is to know how to fight. Politically and verbally, Benton Harbor will teach you. Don't ever take what Benton Harbor forgot and use it as a bad experience. Use it as a learning opportunity. You got to see the inner workings of us. You came in as a principal and rose. So I personally would ask the board, could we stand up and give Dr. Butts a standing ovation for his tenure? Now, I know when you first got here, I didn't want to meet with you. I didn't want to have nothing to do with you. I was getting ready to boycott the meeting
Call the press on me.
and threatened the board president about calling the media. Louise, if you're watching, hi. I threatened to call the board, and Secretary Triplett blocked me in because I was in my car, tried to back out. And he said, you better take your tail. Well, he didn't say it that nice, but he told me to come back in here. So I just want to say, great job. And it was never personal. It was about my morals and beliefs. Some board members may say I'm gaslighting over micromanagement. It's about conviction and about doing the right thing that you feel. And what's right in my conviction may not be somebody else's conviction.
Right.
It's never personal. It's about doing what's right. So I want to say thank you and job well done. And to Angela, Ms. Brock, job well done on the budget. You had me scared for a moment, thought you was about to say this was your last meeting, you were done and everything else. I wasn't ready for no surprises at the board table. So I just want to say thank you. And so often we don't give thanks to our technology people. They're here a lot. It's hot and miserable. Thank you. Dr. Burnick and yes. Dr. Burnick, I'm expecting great things from you. And your transitional period too. So thank you. And God bless you all. Good night.
Thank you. So I would like to remind the board, July 8th, 2025 is our next board meeting. So we will have a bit of a breather. We've been going nonstop, meeting every week, seems like. So we will have a break, and reconvene Tuesday, July 8th. That will be a regular board meeting, but we'll also be taking our vote on our superintendent. Reminder that we did not have a work session because we used the work session as the meet and greet. So for this reason, I'm asking that Dr. Buss, if you could, you and Ms. Singer, if you all could ensure we can get the agenda emailed out to the board by Monday, June 30th before you leave. Is that feasible?
Of course.
You're gonna work to the last second, sir. That way, interim superintendent Chris Burnick does not have to take on that task by himself of developing the agenda and sitting through his first meeting with us when we haven't had a work session. I'm sure he could appreciate some of your support on your last day of work.
Yes.
I'm sure you were planning to be in office on that day.
Most definitely plan to be here on Monday.
All right. Also, just want to thank the board for your participation in our partnership agreement trainings this year. My plan is to send our documentation of completion for all trainings by June 30th. Special shout out to our treasurer Bradley for ensuring that I had documentation that he met me so that I can ensure his name was noted for our most recent training. And then Congratulations to Dr. Burnick again. I know I've said it 1,000 times, but congratulations to you. I would ask if we could have a headshot and a statement from Dr. Burnick be put on our website and sent out to the district welcoming him as our temporary interim July 1st. I know you're shy and bashful, but we need to make sure they know who's running the district so they can know who to confront at the public podium. Next Tuesday. Tag your it. Tag your it. And then we need to ensure that we, Dr. Buss and I had talked about, Dr. Burning just keeping the same phone number, the same district cell that he has, so that when people try to reach Dr. Buss, they're calling Dr. Burning. And so it's a smooth transition. And then lastly, of course, Dr. Buss, I thank you for your efforts. I'm proud of you. You were able to go from a middle school principal, slid that resume and that PhD and that superintendent certificate right on across the table to the board. And we're able to become our interim superintendent, ultimately our superintendent. So we're grateful for your presence, for you standing in the gap for Benton Harbor area schools. We knew you were 10 toes down when you had that incident at Fair Plain Middle, when you got up and kept fighting for the district. So we appreciate you. We appreciate your fight more than anything, and for you making effort to work collaboratively with the Board of Education to achieve greatness on behalf of the district. And we wish you the absolute best in your future at Burt Oak. We probably will. I'm sure one of us will be curious. I'll be online or something. I just want to see how your transition is, and you're more than welcome to call me at any time for questions or to vent. So we honor you, we appreciate you, we're grateful, and we are happy that you are pursuing your greater with your 5-year contract. I did notice that. I said, well, they gave him 5 years. So congratulations to you for that stability in your employment. And just want to thank my board for the unity shown in working collaboratively together. I think this is the most meshed we've ever been. And I'm really excited about potential for greatness moving forward as we change our leadership team again and welcome our new superintendent. And I just want to thank our executive administrative assistant, Ms. Singer, Director Brock Carter, Mr. Mason, our tech staff, for your patience and just for being here for the Board of Education in the district at large. So that is all I have. With that being said, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Is there a second? The motion has been made by Secretary Triplett and supported by Trustee Rockett Martin. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Yes, do you have the attorney telephone number on speed dial? I have a complaint that I need to tonight before I go to sleep. We're ready.
We're ready.
President Robinson.
Yes.
Vice President Bowens.
Yes.
Secretary Triplett. Yes. Trustee Rockett Martin. Trustee Gavin.
Yes.
Trustee Doyle.
Yes.
Madam President, motion carried.
Meeting adjourned officially at 9:21 p.m. Have a great evening and great job, everyone.
Thank you.